Uh, okay, that's it. Good. Okay, now we don't have any kind of technical issues. We're recording because last time I didn't record it and I had to download from Twitch and with a weird resolution when retouch it. So, welcome guys. We're officially live in our second stream. We have a super special guest tonight. Then he's already here, so it's I'm super hyped, and we have Alexander Pascal from Epic, and he's already with us. So welcome in the stream.
Hey everybody. Wait, how do I? Oh wait, I'm both present because I logged in to hang out in the chat, and so I'm present in the chat, and I also have an avatar, right?
Yeah, actually, yes, because there are two different classes, but this plugin for Twitch cannot, you cannot implement any kind of command. So basically, I implemented everything, 3 different parser, because this plugin was completely crashing and was not working at all. So it was kind of crazy. But there you are. That's your set. That's your avatar.
Perfect. Wonderful.
Wow. Amazing technique.
I mean, it's pretty cool, this avatar. Honestly, it's. I love it. I also, making the same notebook you were using on the streams was super cool, honestly. I couldn't find the same stickers, but we're close.
This is basically what I did when the camera was off anyway. So there you go.
yeah. So, well, as always, that's me. As always, Saxanth is late. I don't know where is ending up. Probably in some match of Rocket League. I don't know where Saxanth is. He said he will be here, probably because we are earlier. There is, as always, Shadow with me, which is taking care of the camera management and all the weird stuff that you can do in our virtual studio. Then takes place from the city. There is with me Nadav, as the last time, and there is, of course, Alex with us today. Hopefully then Saxon will come in a bit on the floor, and the today main topic will literally be the future of game development and what represent UE5 as next step, and if UE5 will make us better game developers or technically will just lower the entry-level barrier for everyone, because as we know, many of the things that we are normally used to do, like retopologizing meshes to count every single poly, baking the lights, and dealing with a lot of light maps that are not perfectly correct and stuff like that. All this stuff will be completely thrown away, and that will be the real next step in the industry, in the way that we are working, but literally will be like a quantum step in our passion, because game developing is literally a passion. And so this will be the main topic of the evening, and also we are going to have are the commands working? Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, the commands are they should work.
Yeah, they seem to be like they're working.
They're working. Okay, perfect. Because honestly, when we saw the first time UE5, the demo, my jaw was literally below my chair. I lost it. I lost it. And to be honest, seeing all that tech, maybe raising some questions, honestly. Then I will ask to Alex later in the show. Welcome, Elka. Welcome in the show tonight. And it also, I have a lot of questions for Alex, and I don't know literally where to start, because as you know, guys, our streams are not scripted at all. There is nothing scripted. So if they are worse, they are worse. If they are good, they are good. But this is like a talking out Friday night in front of a beer in a pub with friends.
Well, I've got a beer, so I got that.
Yeah, me too.
Good.
Normally Shadow ends up with 6 beer at the end of the stream. And that's why after he's tired.
Now only 2, so I got heavier beer. So
How many did you take tonight?
Already had 4, so I'm
Okay.
just starting. So.
If the camera management doesn't work, address all issues at shadow.nl.tj, so not.tj.nl. So if the studio goes broken and if the cameras don't work, it's because Shadows drink too much beers. And let's officially start. We will have later Q&A where you can talk to Alex and ask questions to him. If he can answer, he will answer. If he can't, he will not. My first question is it's related of what will represent UE5 for indies. Will UE5 honestly make us better developer, cutting a bit of the workflow, or and will bring us to a higher level, or literally we should consider it just a more powerful tool, but we really need to get back to what really means designing a game, implementing something that works and stuff like that. So will UE5 change the paradigm of making games as indie? What do you think, Alex?
As an indie, I'm hoping so. Like it should be more streamlining as far as what the indie perspective is. A lot of what UE5 does, from what you can see from the blog post, is more that it like lifts the lid off of it takes the ceiling off of things in a lot of ways. So indies typically aren't looking to, like, when we look at these graphics and it's like, oh yeah, we can do like tons of micro, like what Nano allows you to do. Most indies aren't really aiming for that. So I think indies are going to appreciate other things that they may see in the future, like other things that are part of its feature set as far as where it may go. But ultimately, I think what we've shown so far, I think that's more just to show off the power. So I'm hoping people will see things in the future that they like in all areas, but definitely like what we've been showing off in the Nano and Lumen sphere are aimed towards higher end and more I guess like filmic and also like high end gaming and stuff like that. So I'm hoping that you'll see some stuff in the future that will be more, that will show itself as being more indie friendly kind of stuff. But what I'm really kind of looking at it as is a way of being more open in a lot of ways. So I think that that's the thing, is like when any of this stuff is just like, the blog post so far, I've just been saying that. But when it comes to that, I'm thinking we're gonna have to like actually show you guys more at some point, and you'll have to probably wait for the big reveals. And you'll probably feel a lot of interesting kinds of love in different directions. But so far, I think what you've seen is us showing that Unreal's next big step is to say there are no limits. Because when I first got to Epic, I was in the engine QA, and I was actually the guy who would try to put in like the 5 billion poly model into Unreal. And I always tell people like it was hardware dependent back in the day even. So I think now we've just come up with better and better ways of optimizing that. So
yeah, I totally agree. What I felt when I seen the UE5 trailer, a lot of things have impressed me. Also beside Lumen, beside Nanite, the 3D audio was something awesome.
Mm-hmm.
The fluids were awesome. But what more impressed me, literally, was the climbing of the girl.
I was gonna say the character animation, physical, like the physics
Yeah.
implementation of that. Yeah, I think that's kind of, for me, what I'm most interested in is chaos. Honestly, like all the different stuff is amazing. It's super cool. Don't ever quote me as saying I didn't think it was amazingly amazing. It did, but if I had to pick my number one favorite, it's going to be the chaos physics stuff that's already, you can already play with it right now. Like it's already in the engine. It's just the more formalized stuff that they're doing with it it's like, wow, awesome, you know.
Yeah, it was impressive. Yeah, honestly, if you look to that video, if you look to that trailer, to the teaser, it's something that you say, is that real? And not because it was said and was running on a PS5, but because beside the art direction that was insane in that video, and I think you guys spend a lot of resources in terms of making it really spectacular, but thinking as an indie, all the technology that is literally behind that video, it really hypes me a lot, because this is becoming real. I don't know when, because I don't really know the official launch, if it's planned, when it is, and all the stuff. And I don't know if there's I don't know, a way to test it. I don't know about. I'm just excited of what I've seen and all the creativity then, because making a game to me is creativity. Making something is creativity. So the being tired to a lot of things, like I said, like retopologizing the mesh and stuff like that, but like having literally an engine with its poly, like I've seen, it's really give me the freedom that I want to have in game development, and that is awesome. And that is really, I mean, like you said, indies are interested in, now beside the nerds side of the guys that is in us. It's literally, we're interested in bringing our dreams alive.
Yeah, I think that's what a lot of people are in it for. Is even if someone isn't doing it for money, even the people who are doing it for money too, it always kind of comes down to, I had this dream and now it's here. Like we're all artists. At the end of the day, every game developer is an artist. And if you ask an artist, like, what do you want to do? It's like, well, I want to paint my magnum opus. Like, that's what all artists say.
I agree completely.
But yeah, I think that the video they showed off that demo, the character's name is Echo. I always forget what the name of that whole demo was, where she's like flying through the stuff and magic is happening. It's like really cool to show off everything. But that character, if you were in the fellowship, like we have training stuff where we train people, and there was like a public fellowship training, and people in that actually got their hands on that character and got to play around with her in UE4, not in UE5. Yeah. But it was still really cool to get to show that off to people and show how well made the character was and stuff. Her ponytail was a little funny, but yeah, everything else was amazing.
As well, the Paragon characters, that was insane. All the work that is behind the Paragon characters is the state of the art, honestly.
Oh yeah, I think that's always going to be a thing that Epic does, and going forward, you're probably going to see more of that. It's just when a game, I mean, actually, I shouldn't say just going forward, but just recently. But with Edith Finch, we have this thing, like Tim is like super into giving away things to be like, you want to make a game, and the problem that you always encounter is like, oh, I didn't have a character model. Oop, I didn't have a door model. Oops, I didn't have a like whatever particle effect for that thing. And you get tired of looking at placeholders. And so I think Tim really realized, like, with any of our old games, like Infinity Blade was the first one we did it with, where they released all the asset packs. And then they did it with, Paragon. They did it with a few other things. And then now with Edith Finch, you can just get all those assets. So that's always been kind of a philosophy with Tim. So yeah, I'm sure that you'll be seeing more of that in the future to help like unlock more. And that's more the indie dev, like outreach stuff. We actually have there's actually an indie developer team now that, like, I think it's being run by Aaron Langmead, the guy who does Bears Can't Drift, and he works at Epic now.
Awesome.
But check out what Aaron Langmead is doing on Twitter if you're an indie and you want to shake hands with some Epic folks and talk to us a bit. Aaron is going to be the between him and Victor and Amanda. I think that those are like the trifecta. But he's got like a program. I got to go look up the name of it now.
Okay.
It's public. I have to go find it. Yeah.
So the main question was for today: will be the UE5 engine help you to be better game designer?
Yeah, actually, this is the main topic. And what do you think, Nadav, about that?
I think hell yeah, and I want UE5 right now, Axel, if I can, please.
I just threw it in. Just threw it in your Twitch chat. It's unrealengine.com/program/unreal-indies. So hopefully that'll
Okay.
help.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I didn't know that is.
Yeah. So that's a thing that you can do now. And I think it's Aaron spearheading it, but I've seen him like definitely shaking the pom poms and holding a sign up saying "Go here, go here." So I think he's on this team working on it. But this is like our there it is, contact alias up there. And so that's the first thing is you go up there and you'll hit that big Unreal Engine button, and then we'll try to. I think that's where they'll kind of guide you through things like, if you want to do meetups where you can actually get training or meet with other developers. If you want to get training, if you want to talk about these mega grants, we can help you with that as well. I think there's a fear for indies when they see the mega grants program and they don't know what exactly they should be doing, and I get a lot of the same questions around it. Like,
it's 2 years and it's 2 years and everyone says submit this game.
Yeah. Oh no. I have a bunch of indie friends that are just like, can I just show you what I want to submit? And I'm like, yeah. And I look at it and I'm like, this is great. Make sure you include this and this. And then it's always the same questions, and they're always like, I'm so ashamed, I'm so nervous, should I come to you? Like, it's fine. Like, and I think Aaron just wanted to formalize that because so many of us have friends in the indie world and they're like, so what do I submit? I'm like, oh, okay, like you want to submit a basic outline, you want to submit maybe some plans in the future. We're never going to check up on you, by the way. Those literally are no strings attached, so we just want to make sure you're serious in the beginning, and then we cross our fingers and hope, and that's literally all we do. We cross our fingers and hope that you're going to do great, everything's wonderful. And then, wait a minute, that's Carlos Coronado. I recognize that one. Up a little bit. It's the underwater game that was up a little bit. That's so funny. A little bit more. Yeah, Coral. Yeah, that's Carlos Coronado. I lived in his house for like a month or two. I know that developer.
Awesome.
He's so funny. Right? He's all by himself.
Yeah. He's a solo guy. He can't work with other people. He doesn't like to, or he works with maybe like one or two other people near the end of a project. He's wonderful though. He's super adventurous person. If you ever want to talk to another indie about the process, he's gotten a lot of awards and he knows what he's doing. He's also very good at teaching you how to hype yourself. Because one of his things is he'll do a thing where it's like the laurels, it goes to the end and it's like the winner of this award and that award, and he flies them up so fast you don't catch. A couple of them are jokes, and so you just see walls of awards.
That's it is. I've seen this already, and the environment here, the lighting and the mood is special. Really, I love it a lot.
I was there when he was making it. A lot of it is just alpha cutouts. These are a lot of alpha cutouts with a material that just wiggles a little on them.
Why, Alex? You made a stream with him also about the game in the past.
Oh, I was at his house and we talked about it.
Yeah, but I've seen something in stream related to this, related also to I guess you were talking also about licensing on Nintendo, something like that. Is that possible?
Yeah, we were talking about problems he was having with getting it onto the Switch and then getting approvals and stuff. He's a great guy when it comes to talking about his experience with working with different companies, because he'll tell you which ones are more stringent and what problems you're going to have on certain consoles, because his previous game Infernium passed every single console, but when he put it on a Switch, the FPS dropped. It just tanked, and he couldn't figure out why until he did some diagnostics and found it was the cobwebs had an alpha channel, and too many alpha channels would destroy the switch. And so he just eliminated half of his cobwebs. And so it was stuff like that. Like alpha channels are really rough on the Switch. So yeah, he's got. This is a great article. You will definitely want to check it out if you're an indie.
Yeah.
And you're wondering how to publish, because yeah, he's published now. He's on his third UE4 game, and he's worked on Unreal Engine 3 before this. So yeah, every year he puts out a new game. It's crazy.
In a year, a game per year.
No,
That's incredible.
About after a year, he has something that you could totally play, and then after 2 years, he's polished it up into something he's ready to sell.
Oh,
it's always like the 90% done in the first year, and then the last 10% takes another year.
that's insane.
But these look really inspiring. So
Yeah. Well, he got inspired because he's a scuba diver, and he kept finding garbage, and so it's all about like the pollution underwater that he encountered and all that. And so it's full of like factoids about the ocean. And stuff, and so that's why things will be kind of gross in places, and other things are really beautiful. And it's a very clever little puzzle game. Yeah. A lot of this though, he's like that, like the scene there with the jellyfish, and there's just like millions of jellyfish. It's actually a picture of millions of jellyfish. It's like 2 or 3 pictures of millions of jellyfish, and then he does parallax.
Really?
Stuff.
Awesome.
Like this one, that's it right there.
That's awesome.
He's super tricky. Yeah, you gotta check out his live streams in his YouTube channel. It's mostly in Spanish, so when I know that Italian and Spanish don't cross over a whole lot, but a little bit.
They're close.
Maybe. Yeah.
Actually, a lot.
Yeah.
You know, if you think to what is game development is it's constantly pushing yourself to cross the limits and finding new crazy way to doing the things, right? New approach, and the thing is, we were talking the last time about what keeps you committed. You know, like me. You know, I dropped my job and I said, okay, I want to become a bum, an indie. And I want to make my own game because it was my dream when I was a kid. It's pretty standard for every indie like this things. And we're talking a lot about how you can keep committed on a huge problem. Beside the normal kind of problem, then when you start, then you want to make a game, you want to make the new World of Warcraft or the new Dark Age of Camelot, because they are cool, because a lot to make it, and eventually 1 out of 10,000 will make it, because it's so crazy enough. But in your experience, what is the best advice you can give to someone to keep committed and keep pushing its work? Because honestly, there are a lot of different phases when you go out to start your game. You're super pretty iPad, and after this curve, going down, going up and down. It's like a roller coaster technically, and especially when you're scoping a big, huge project. What is the best advice you can give to people to keep committed, to keep pushing, to keep fighting for? Because sometimes. Your motivation could go off. This is something that normally I hear from many people. Your motivation can go off, and you look kind of reports and statistics, and you say, then all the indies are starving and they don't make any kind of money, and only the 0.2% makes money, and all this stuff, and especially because due to a thing that we're gonna talk in later about the different stores. What is the best advice you can give to someone that is literally is literally having problems keep committed to huge projects?
I think the number one thing I have to say to especially people who are not, I think this is always advice I have to give people who are very new in the industry or very inexperienced in it, is always kind of the same thing here, is that you're gonna try to start in a place that is much bigger than you even realize, and you need to start smaller. And a lot of times what happens is you'll get into your first thing, and like I said, the magnum opus is what we all want to do, is our big big personal project we're all in love with and we invest all of our time in. But the truth is that if you're really trying to get going in game development and you want it to be a career that you yourself are self-sustaining on it, you need to not think about it as a I have to make this superstar game, and it has to be that 0.2% that is super duper successful. You can see what people like. Carlos is a great example, honestly, of this, and a few other developers I know, Cedric is a great one. He's like Xe on the forum. There's a bunch of these people that do very smart things. Here's what they do. They don't make a big magnum opus life-changing game. What they do is they come up with a handful of mechanics that really work for them. And in Carlos's case, he comes up with like a kind of handful of really solid mechanics, and then he will put together a bunch of levels, and next thing you know, it's finished. Because he's not putting together this giant, super amazing thing that's going to have tons of cinematics. He's not investing in lots of other people. He knows what his scope is, and this is why he's successful, is that he wants to always build something he can complete in a small scale and in a time frame, and he tries to keep himself to that time frame. And then what he does is he puts the game out, and then he moves right on to the next project, and he'll immediately start putting together the pieces. And here's the thing. It's not about that he made a game, the end. It's about that. It's a small game. He put it out, now it's making money, and he immediately moved on. He didn't sit there and dwell on it. I think he patches it like 1 or 2 times if he needs to. And he immediately moves on. And he's already making tutorials about how he made his game. So people who play his game want to know, they're like game developers too, that also play it, and they want to know how he did it. So he then explains in his tutorials, and he's sold. So along with his game that he just put out. So he put out Infernium and Coral. And then he also put out a not Udemy, but one of those style of courses. And then he sold that too, explaining how he made those games for money as well. And I think he probably made a solid amount on that by comparison. And then then that's kind of where he keeps himself sustaining. All the previous games he's put out are very similar in that it's a series of levels. It's some very core mechanics. Coral's the same way. His horror games are the same way. And then he allows himself to have what's called passive income. He doesn't think about them anymore, and he moves on. But they're generating a small amount of money each, and all of that adds up into a total amount every month. And you can sell stuff on asset stores that, like, your game's over, you're done, sell all your stuff on an asset store that you didn't buy before the game, that you made yourself. And that's how he sustains himself very well, is that he's like, it's that thing about don't just eat the good meat, you have to eat the whole animal. You know, you have to take apart the organ. You got to eat everything if you're going to survive the winter, is kind of my advice. And so that's what he does, and he's super successful at it. And everyone I've ever seen fail puts all their money into a magnum opus, and then it runs for 6 years, and they drain their bank account, and it's rough.
Yeah,
you know,
I get the point.
Yeah. Yeah. So along the way, Carlos also does apply for grants, and he does apply to the government a lot for their grants, and he applies for awards all the time. He's very, very active about it. And so he's created a sustaining ecosystem for himself in Spain. It's really smart.
It is. I feel that, but this is I get it. This is sure the best approach. But if your dream, if you're let me put it this way: if you're crazy, then you want to create something astonishing, something great, something then. For example, for my game, I've written a novel of 300 pages, and now I am implementing the novel into the game. And this is taking an insane amount of time because we have an insane amount of different mechanics. When the scope gets too big, you really should cut off and be more pragmatic with the approach with the things, or you should keep dreaming because I'm doing this for. Honestly, I grew up playing Pong in the arcade rooms. So I saw all the evolution of the video games industry from, the first Pong machine and even before to now. And speaking for me, I'm doing this game because I wanna play the game that I ever always dreamt to play. And this is taking a lot of resources, 2 years without a salary for me, and living on my savings, like you were saving technically. So this is technically this is a wrong approach. But if your passion brings you to do that, and to approach game design in this way, with you like you're doing this for passion. You're doing this because you want to output that freaking great game, if it's possible, right? Is that wrong, or what is the advice that you can give? Like cut mechanics, cut things, cut parts, and ship it, or just try to pursue and for that 0.2%, then it's not for money, but more than for money, it's for glory. Okay.
If you're doing it for like not money, then I mean, I should clarify. Carlos also has a part-time job working as an indie game developer professor at the University of Barcelona too, as like part-time thing. So like he still works like a regular job for additional income, in addition to having this. So yeah, I think the number one thing when you're working on your magnum opus project is that either you have to have two things. One of two things is either a ridiculous amount of capital, like just you have to have someone who or your own money that they're just going to sink all their money into it and allow you to build a team,
which I'm finishing.
Yeah, and like build a layup. The other method is to kind of allow yourself to not do it all at once and allow yourself episodic releases of a thing. So I think what we all get ourselves caught in is I want to make Final Fantasy, and it's like 7 discs, and it required hundreds of people over several years in parallel
42 millions for developing.
Yeah. But when we as indies, as our like, I have my own too. It's an old school RPG that's inspired by Arena that I've been working on as a side thing, and it's very like I do a lot of cool techniques and stuff that I think are fun, but I have to keep it in scope. And my plan, and this is how I'm trying to hopefully release things, is to cut it up into a vertical slice, what we call a vertical slice, to just have all the core mechanics. You just sit down and you get them all functional as core mechanics, and then you build out a handful of levels, not the whole game, but thank you. I'm sorry, my wife just brought me a drink. Thank you very much. And then you build out chapter 1. You build out the first one, and this is how you can also create passive income as you're building out some major. I'm sorry, I don't know exactly what it all is going to look like in its end, but if it's a RPG, I mean it's a JRPG. But if you have like a JRPG like this, like you're working on your big Final Fantasy, it's not that. It's your own thing. But that style of game, large, it has a big lore, it has a lot of story. You want to explore, you want to give people the chance to explore, and then you're looking at it and you're like, I've got a lot to do. And you're right, that is correct. And so I would say release chapter 1, and then say, chapter 1 is $5, chapter 2 is $5, chapter 3 is $5. And allow yourself to build the vertical slice so that it works. Release a handful, a section. Like this isn't the 90s. You don't have to buy all of Final Fantasy at once. We could actually have bought Final Fantasy in 1 disc, 2 discs. Like it takes you forever to get out of Midgard. And then by the time you're out of it, you're ready for the next one and you're all hyped up, and you're absorbing every piece of lore that is in that one area because you're replaying it over and over and over again. If you're like me and your disc 2 got scratched. And so, yeah.
Well, I finished Final Fantasy 7 times, but the real one. No, this one, I didn't like it so much.
I was gonna say, like, I actually had to buy the replacement, but yeah, it's very different in the remake. It's definitely not the same.
Yeah.
Can I ask you a question about what you said? I have like a follow-up question.
Yeah.
Because I totally agree with Reborn. I think like when you make, I think what you said is that when you make a systematic game that you have like a few core mechanics and you can throw quickly a few levels testing out those mechanics, and then you have like 70% of the game you're thinking about, that maybe you can make something like Coral work after a year of development and see if it's fun to play or worth continuing or polishing, right? But in the case of game like Reborns or even mine, I find it hard because I do have core mechanics, but a major chunk of the game experience is actually the story, not only the puzzles, and they are a lot more harder to vertical slice, if you know what I mean, because you need to put actual content. It's not just like systematic level design with some mechanics. You actually need to put cutscenes, story elements, story beats, maybe do some voiceovers, because you want to see if it's working with other playtesters. You have to do that work to some extent. That's what I mean. And how do you approach that?
Oh no, that's all part of it. That's what I'm saying is like you actually Final Fantasy Remake is a perfect example because Final Fantasy VII had to come out all at once because of the era it came out in. Now when they do this remake, the story is all there. You don't need, it's all part one right now. Like there's more parts coming, right? It's not the full game. You're gonna play through that first chunk, and it leads up to all this information. It's not. I don't think any game really gives you everything in the first chapter or the first, the first arc. And so I think that's how you would do it. Is you would, if you've got a game and it has a linear plot line like that, or if it has any kinds of plot lines that would maybe diverge from each other, you would just have to say, oh, let's go here, and then I can cut you off. Because here's the smart thing about Sony here is they were, clearly they were planning on making this one big game. Then they realized they were going to have to tack on an extra couple of years to the release date. And then they're like, well, since the vertical slice is done, like it does, where all the mechanics are there. And if we focus all of our attention on the first part, we can go ahead and put it out. And then look at this. Now everyone's going to end up buying multiples of, like, people are going to buy every single game. They're not going to just buy the first one and be like, that was cool, I get the idea. No, they're going to buy the chapters down the line separately now. And I mean, one, monetarily, that's like, whoa, that's like a lot more money. And then two, that means that they get to finish things and people are hyped. They're talking about it. Everybody's like, when's the next chapter going to come out? It's not that it works for everybody, but it's definitely when you're in a situation where you have 300 pages of lore and you're getting to page 50 or 60 and you're like, oh boy, it's going to be months until I can get through the rest of this, and I do want to give people something, then it's something to consider. It depends on how much you can push yourself, but at a certain point you can say, and no one's going to stop you. There's no game police that are going to stop you from saying, wait a minute, I'm getting exhausted. Let's wrap up after this big boss fight on a cliffhanger in the story. The big cliffhanger in the story, Eris dies, kind of thing. And now everybody wants to know what happens next. And there's no one's going to stop you from taking a breath at that point. And you can always have big open world, like the first, like after you get through a lot of these games, you get to the big open world section, and they still make you transfer discs. It's still changing one game out for the next at some point, without changing the core mechanics.
Talking of, I let you just make a quick question, and after I let Nadav reply to it.
Oh yeah, go for it.
You don't think that big open worlds are a bit overrated because mostly are used to make the player spending time traveling for hundreds of kilometers from a location to another, and
hugely.
And lacking of storyline, literally, right? And I really think that I'm making a huge game based on a huge stories, and I'm confronting myself also on the game design side that of the things that implementing storyline in open worlds is much more difficult than implementing a game like Vampire, for example. Then you have your location, you go to that location, you progress to the other, and so far so on. So I think that big huge open worlds are really misused now. I was in a GDC technically, speaking 1 year and a half ago. They invited me to showcase the game, and I close to me there were kind of a team of 7-8 people, and then was saying everyone, map is 64 by 64 square kilometers, and I said, oh, that's freaking awesome, and I didn't see other than trees.
Yeah, and it's mostly empty. Yeah. No, if I personally, I've always preferred a game that's sort of hub based. You know, what's actually been a pretty cool design, and I wish they would do a little bit more with it, is the there's the Elder Scrolls Blades game, and it's basically like Elder Scrolls, except for instead of big emptiness, you just have the town, and then you teleport immediately to the dungeon, and then you just do the dungeon, and then you're just back in town. And so it eliminates a lot of the just meandering around into the trees of nothingness, which I thought was kind of neat. So they kind of streamlined that. But no, actually, that makes it easier if you're going to do, if you were to do chapters instead of one solid thing. Because most of the reason you do one solid game is because you've designed it in such a way that it's so big and grandiose, it's difficult to cut up. If you're doing a game that's a little bit more linear in its design, but is still giving you some choices and whatnot, that's actually pretty easy to break up into chapters, I would say. But I wouldn't say like that's, you know, don't live by my rules. I'm just saying that's one suggestion, is breaking it up is one way of doing it. If you don't want to limit, basically, if you don't want to like cut back on things, essentially. Because like Carlos has made like, I think he's like making his third game that's like a quote unquote horror game, but they all, if you play them all, they all feel like they're in the same universe.
Okay, I get it. Nadav, go on. Sorry, see if I interrupted you.
No, it's totally cool. I think you answered my question, Alex. I just what I'm sharing here is that I find it, working on my game, I find it like sometimes I think to myself that if I would have done something more simple, which is because I have strong puzzle elements in my game, but I also have a lot of story elements. Mm-hmm. And I'm just thinking sometimes if I just had a systematic game with puzzles, you know, like Braid or I don't know, Portal, which are great and they have some story, but they're mostly like a puzzle after a puzzle after a puzzle. It would have been easier for me to just do a quick play testing, you know, and just give players to play it and see if it's fun. But right now I have a situation that I have some puzzles, but because there's like empty spaces where story should be in between them, I can't do a proper playtest of the game until I have the content in, even as a sketch, even roughed in. And I find it's a totally different part of game development, doing content, other than like doing systems and implementing puzzles and stuff like that, and skill, like mechanical skill bits. That's what I mean.
So you mean more like doing cutscenes, like where you're gonna like pause, like you're gonna be in the middle of a puzzle and it stops and you do a cutscene?
Specifically cutscenes, even just log lines or maybe short cutscenes, some text you can read, or I don't know, even art, even things that make sense about the world, but are important in games like mine and Reborn. I think are more important than games that are like, again, mostly systematically based, that have like core mechanics that take 30% of the game.
I see. So in something like that, I mean, I would still say, like, especially the more story-driven games, I would say, like, what you're probably looking at if you want to save yourself time is to figure out what are things that are systemic, like what are things that you're going to be doing repeatedly, and try to make those into a pipeline, like what you're describing as far as like, a short cutscene versus you probably have cutscenes in some places versus displaying a piece of text. We often do those all individually, like, but maybe I don't know if you've like modularized this where you've created like a concept of this is a volume and it will play a cutscene if you step inside of it, and it never plays it again, and you know it just kind of pre-makes that kind of one-off cutscene. But I'd say try to modularize your blueprints as much as you can in those senses to speed it up. And then when it comes to looking at the scope of things, really don't be afraid to use placeholders in a lot of those. If you're waiting for cutscenes to be made, or if you just haven't made them yet and your current focus is getting from puzzle to level, going ahead and focus on that. I'd say that's probably the most important thing, is just focusing on the level layouts and where the puzzles will take you. Then start putting the puzzles in, and then if people are stopping you halfway into a puzzle to explain a piece of lore or to tell you, what to do, and then they solve or help you solve a puzzle, then go on ahead and skip Like, you can put in a placeholder that just says you run into it and a piece of text pops up that says, cinematic here, then you move on for right now. But I guess I'd have to kind of take a look at exactly what you're designing to know better ways. But generally speaking, when we have a game that's going to be micro cinematic heavy, where you just like walk into an area, you see a character run off, and the camera takes over. Then you go back and you're running. Then camera takes over again and sees something else, and then you run around and then camera again. That's probably something where you can put in placeholders for right now, and then just keep moving, and then go back and really focus on the first 3 or 4 levels, and try to polish those up as much as you can. Like, I don't know how big you want your first game or like your game release to be, or how stressed you are. But what's it?
Me neither. I still don't know how big it yet.
Yeah, but that would be it. Like, if you're feeling stressed, like, there's no reason you shouldn't make an entire game all at once. No, except for you're under so much stress and you don't have the financial backing. Then you should start thinking about, should I break this up? Should I rein in the scope a bit? But if you're feeling confident and you're feeling very passionate still, then you don't have to. But worry about burnout, because the thing is, it's going to hit you. Like, it's not that you're going to feel it coming up very, like, from a distance, where you're like, I'm working on my game. I'm starting to feel a little bit like maybe I'm getting mad at this. It's going to be like you're minding your own business, and then one day you get into work and you just don't want to do it anymore, and you hate the game and you hate everything about it, and you're pushing yourself to do it, and then you have to go to therapy. So don't. So that's just it. Is like,
been there a few times.
If it's feeling even slightly like, ooh, that's a lot to do, think about how many levels you really want. Can you release this as a 2-parter or something like that? Or can this be a core game and an expansion pack? Because that's what one of my other friends doing, Arcus. She's great. She's doing this like mobile game, and she just was like, the archery's done, the tower defense is done, all the waves are done, all this is done. I don't care about what was it? It was an area, like a zone, like a frozen zone or something. And she's like, that'll be the expansion pack. Screw it. I need to get this. And she was like telling me, like, oh, I might do the expansion pack, or I might not. I'm just glad I got the game out the door, and I'm glad I didn't try to push more. So don't push, for that extra thing. If you realize later on, it's like, that could be an expansion pack. There's going to be like a day where you're like, I could have had a wife and kids and an expansion pack, or I could have one solid game, and be lonely and eating ramen, and hoping that becomes the takeoff game. And so that's why I think that Carlos just has a great strategy, is that he's like, everything is kind of like a handful of levels, done, push it out, move on.
It's actually a really solid advice. Thank you. And I am actually, now these days, I'm trying to like sit down and scope my game and not just like create random stuff in it. So this is really solid advice. Thank you.
Yeah. No, scope is the killer. And then feature creep is the absolute murderer.
They know me. They call me feature creeper.
Oh,
you are completely.
Oh, no.
What did you say, Shadow?
You completely are feature creeper. Everything you pops in your mind you're making. So.
Well, I'm a kind of creative person. So if something I think that is cool, besides that I implemented the storyline, but I implemented 3 different crafting systems. That is kind of crazy. And we have a full operating system into the game. Any NPCs can be connected to the network, and so you can pilot drones, you can kill NPCs, you can steal information, there is a firewall, there is an AI which take care of firewalls. There is a replication of a real network inside the game, and everything could be connected to the network, from NPCs and things like that. You can literally type questions to NPCs, and they answer based on artificial intelligence, and instead of having, you have also normal dialogues, but you can really type questions to NPCs and stuff like that. But I designing all this huge amount of mechanics, because these mechanics that will help me to drive the storyline. So basically, what I'm doing for myself, it's creating this big huge framework, and when this huge framework is ready, I can start to implement the storyline. That's the approach then I had, and I understand what Alex said is, then for me, me guys, it doesn't work because I cannot use placeholders or mannequins or stuff like that to making the things, because I'm very very visual when I'm making the things, and that
Yeah.
things bothers me literally. Let me retain just the camera a second so I can show you guys. let me get back to phone.
Oh yeah.
Let,
1 second. I'm gonna dip out. I'm gonna dip out and I'm gonna dip back in.
okay.
1 second. Yeah.
I really need to see visually how the zones looks, and how I can reach the level of detail that I want, because kinda I need to build the things as they go, because whenever I planned to start to make Little Italy, this is the main square of Little Italy, and many people say, "Oh, this is super cool, this is super detailed," but this is still not even the level of detail that I want to reach. This is a good 80% of the visual than I want for this zone, but it's still not perfect. And imagining this kind of life, this kind of zone with placeholders and stuff, it I'm really a very very visual person, so I really needs to see. I really needs then the environment around me narrates the storyline itself, and because I think then, especially for storyline games related, I mean the mood then is in the environment, and any single details, any single corner, everything really matters a lot, because that's contribute a lot to the narration of the history itself. So for me, then I'm a maniac of details. I'm a maniac of lighting. I'm a maniac of all these things. The 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 way of like it's bad. The way of like prototyping the prototyping the whole city with literally with placeholders or stuff like that. For me, it's not working, because I really need to see what's going on, what visually appeals me, and what doesn't literally. But that I understand that it's just for me. This is just my way of seeing the things, my way of implementing the game that I want to do. So I'm really, really very, very, very visual, and so I need to see how the things connect together. And beside the fact that I'm a feature creeper, I'm never happy with my work. Never.
Yeah, but that's a method of work that you prefer. So not for everyone works that the same way. So
Yeah, I'm actually saying that I am the one which is wrong, because I'm getting countering every single thing, and the day then I I honestly think, and that's what I always said, and everyone knows that I think that we, as game designer, humble bundle game designer, as I call myself, I cannot make a game fun, but I can design a lot of mechanics, a lot of different mechanics, then let the freedom to the player to face the quest, the mission, and the puzzle in such a different ways, then everyone can find his own fun into the game. I think this is honestly what I think of game design, because what is fun for me, it's not fun for Shadow, it's not, or it's fun maybe for Nadav, it's not fun for Alex. I think as game designer we cannot make something universal fun, okay? Because the meaning of fun is completely different for me, for Mascarian, for everyone. I think, and then as game designer we can find a lot of different and interesting mechanics where everyone can find his own piece of fun in it, right?
You're right, and your game looks so amazing. It always surprises me, and I really want to go get lost in it. I mean, I totally understand what you're doing with all the details and the light. I think it really works, and it just looks beautiful, man.
Thank you, Lord Nado. I don't know. I think then the meaning of fun is different for everyone. So starting to make a game and saying, I'm going to make this game fun, I think then honestly, to me, it's not possible because, for example, I don't know if you agree, guys, I'm not gonna implementing like mini map where like in World of Warcraft people, for example, in World of Warcraft people doesn't even read anymore the quests, and the lore is the most important thing. So people take the quest. There are also mods that auto accept quest, and you get your target on the mini map. You go there and you deliver the quest, whatever it is. We should get back to understand then. A game should be a game, and the game should have its own difficult, not just making movies, like making interactive movies, but we should get back to the point then, the player should start to sweat a bit to kind of find a solution for a quest. Thank you for the cheer, Shadow. Found the solution of the quest and be involved in the storyline and all this stuff, because this has been completely lost. I mean, I hate games then you take the quest and literally you already the target on the minimap and the target of the object that you have to retrieve, and it is not a game. This is a gamification. So I honestly think that we should get back to the good old thank you, Mascane, to the good old mechanics in which this is a game. Like, you need to explore the game. Like, I have so many secret areas in game that then I want them people kind of explore the walls to open secret doors and to this. I mean, honestly, I played an insane amount of games in my life, and now what I see, modern games are interactive experience. I mean, there's always something that is helping the user. There's always something that is helping the player. There is always something that hey, there are games that literally adjust their AI for dumber players. I mean, that's completely wrong. That's no more a game. What do you think, guys, about that? What's your opinion about that, guys?
I agree with you. I mean, I agree with you that games are becoming less challenging. It's maybe like a generalization what I'm saying, but a lot of games are becoming easier just to make for more players come in and play. There's a really interesting GDC talk about the Dark Souls being the IKEA of games. Have you seen that talk? It's a really great one.
Don't think so.
And he talks about that Dark Souls, for instance, they made their games hard and difficult because that was the players they were aiming to when making that game. They weren't trying to hit all the markets at once, and I think that's a problem you're talking about. Like games like World of Warcraft, and I totally agree with what you're saying. They're just grindy games in a way that they want you to to keep interacting quickly with the game, to have quote unquote fun. So you don't even spend time reading or immersing in the lore unless you're like that kind of player, but you're trying to hit both players at once, and in the process they like not doing something that is good enough for each for explorer player, let's say, or for action player, and they're actually losing those both fights because they're doing something which is like a mediocre experience. I think that's my opinion, right? It's not a like a 100% challenging game, or it's not like a 100% story game. It like something in the middle. And I think what you're talking about, what you're trying to make, is something that is more pure. It's for a specific player who likes the challenge, who likes exploring, who likes to read the story. And part of that experience to make it fun for him, for this specific player, is not giving him a mini map, not telling him like exactly where he should go. Let him find this for himself. And this is part of this kind of fun for this kind of player. And this is how you will get your players to play your game, because if you make the game easy with a minimap, those kind of players are not going to play your game like you are not going to play your game.
Yeah, Andrei is. I hope I pronounce it okay. He's saying, well, depends. Some players come tired from work and they want just to play an easy game to relax and not try too hard to beat a boss with a 3 branch on it.
Yeah, for sure. But then, so that's exactly the problem. So that's why there's a lot of debate about, again, I'm talking about Dark Souls, that people say, why don't Dark Souls have an easy mode or something like that, right? Like a setting that makes the game easy, or give you a mini map and you have the choice to put it on and off, and you like design your own game experience. But this is not what game design is. Like making a game that hits all players at once is like not a design. Design is a specific thing. That's what I believe in. This is the games I like to play.
But
personally.
don't you think then, as in this, were the duty to explore what the AAA companies they don't? I mean, if I'm a fan of RPGs, I played any kind of RPGs from Baldur's Gate, Icewind Dale, Black Crypt, Eye of the Beholder on Amiga. I played mostly every kind of RPGs, and they had a good storyline and stuff like that. And I am a fan of RPGs. My real question is, should we get back to the old good times in which a game was a game, and we were literally, we're not going to school because we couldn't solve that puzzle, or we want to explore more, or we want to find that secret areas, or I feel like, I don't know, Alex, if you agree with me, but I feel like all the new games are some kind of endless tutorials.
Having an endless tutorial is not always fun, but a lot of games now, you'll have them introducing mechanics over a long period of time, like the Final Fantasy, whatever it was, I want to say 14 or so, not the current one, but the previous one. And I just remember them being like, oh, the tutorial is 21 hours long. But that's kind of a difference, though, between some things and others. And in your perspective of grinding, I thought that was funny, is that when you talk about grinding, you say Dark Souls isn't grindy. But for me, Dark Souls is a very grindy game, because I see that it as a big RPG where the first time I played Dark Souls 2, not the first one, and I went down a wrong path, and I didn't see that there was like a split in the path, and I just assumed there was the one direction. And so I kept going down it and fighting a couple of monsters that were clearly for like mid-game tier critters. They were these large constructions of some sort. And I ended up fighting them until I got enough levels that I could kill them in just a couple hits. And then my friend came over, he's like, no, if you turn right, there's like a downstairs, and then there's like a whole entire ruins area. And I'm like, I've been playing this game all wrong, and now I'm already mid-level, like mid-tier, like I'm several levels in. And I'm great now, like I'm amazing, and I can do all this stuff. And it was very funny is that everyone's like, oh, it's a skill-based game, and then I would be like, no, it can be, but every game experience is sort of dictated by the designer and the player. And if I make a mistake and I miss something because it wasn't made very clear, because that's what happened to me. I didn't see that near the campfire, if I had gone down this one way near a cliffside, I'd go down and there was like a whole ruins area, and so I went up a path, fought all these much harder monsters, and got really good at dodging. But no, I think it's a balance. Like, you have to think about what your audience, two things, like what audience do you want to reach and how wide is that audience? Because accessibility in games comes down to a lot of stuff. And this is why you should probably talk to my wife too, is like, if you have Dark Souls, it's great, but I will never, ever, ever pay attention to the lore because I'm so distracted by everything else. I couldn't tell you the first thing about Dark Souls lore. I I played the crap out of 2. I couldn't tell you if my character had a name, or if my name was the one I gave it, or if I was important at all. If I was a hero, or if I was some dude. And so I think that it would be great if I could have a casual play mode of Dark Souls, so I could actually take a moment to really absorb what the heck was going on, as opposed to thinking, I got to go fight that guy, or I got to figure out where I'm going. And so there's a trade-off. It depends on who you want to reach. Like, do you want to reach hardcore skill-based people that are really into just fighting and all that? Because they're not the same people that want to sit there and read the lore. The people that get super good at getting through and not getting hit once, like those streamers that don't get hit once, you ask them what the Dark Souls lore is, and I don't think they'd ever tell you anything about it. So it's what you want, it depends. But I'd say if you make something more accessible, you're going to have a much larger audience, but it's going to be less hardcore skill-based people. Personally, when it comes to some of this stuff, like when you're talking about quests, I don't like being told, go here. I like to have to open my quest log. Like Morrowind is the epitome of quests for me, because it's literally, you open your quest log, what happened to me recently is written down in it, and then I can kind of backtrack what I want to do from there.
Yeah, I
but I don't like
game.
the Skyrim go right. Like I don't like the Skyrim go right here, arrow personally.
Yeah, because that's no more a game. I mean, a game. It's a fun thing. It was, I think, 2-3 months ago, and I made PlayStation Now, and I started to play and streaming a bunch of games, and any games was starting with a combat. I said any of the games was starting with make me combat with someone. So I started to wondering, is that all now? I mean, is that all? People just wanna just jump in and okay. I'm not speaking of Fortnite, of course. Anyone would just wants to just spawn and kill someone. Is that the public now? Is that the normal or average gamer? Then I mean, I made. People knows I made an insane combat system. You have, dual wield, the katana. You have street fighting. You can damage per bone, and based on the movement of the animation. If you are at the apex of the animation, you are dealing more damage to a multiplier than and compared also to the bone. Then you are eating. You are scoring way more. I made an insane combat, but I keep it for the last. Because honestly, I'm not interested in making this game a combat game. I'm interested in making this game as a beautiful story, because the story is very me. The story is narrating a bit of my life, and it's controversial. I'm really closely attached to this story. But I noticed that then, like you said, you just jump in a game and you slash mobs. I mean, and if this appeal to a broader audience, I don't want to do a game like that. I want to do a niche game. But call me crazy, but I mean, guys, I want to do a niche game in which people can, get back from work and say, it's okay, what I can discover today, what the narration, it's like, in the old good times, you was coming back, from work, and getting back to the book, and going on with the story, and the story was beautiful, narrated through words, and making and fascinating you through the idea of the author that had that particular place and things. And now we are much furthermore, because we can show the places, and which Unreal, it's really beautiful. So if the normal audience is just okay, just want to spawn in a map which is 100 square meters and kill everyone, I don't want to make a game like that. I want to make a game which is different. I want to make a game which people can get back and enjoy hours and hours of storytelling and discovering secrets, and and jokes and having fun or making people laugh, making people cry, making people be worried for dead NPCs that is sick, or I have systems in games that influence the mood of NPCs. And for example, if there's a rioting game, the NPCs that are more kind of wimpy, they will not go to open the store, so you will not find them. Or people that are scared of the night, they will not open their shop at night, and so far so on. So I want them people. I want them my eventually player will get back home and says, okay, I'm gonna enjoy another bite of a beautiful story without rush, without being arrested by timing. So probably I don't appeal with the limited spawn attention that is nowadays, but I want to make something different.
Maybe ask questions now, Esco.
Sure.
Okay. Alexander,
Mm-hmm.
when we started the stream, always need to cut Exo, because when he starts to talk, he's flowing over.
Thank you. Love you too.
When we started the stream, the question was, will make UE5 make you easier in development and making great games? Are you not afraid of making some things will be easier, but how do you think about it yourself? Will UE5 be the engine to make you make better games, or is it just polishing nice stuff and making stuff much larger?
I think that with what's to come, it's necessary to make the changes that UE5 brings at its core. There's a lot that's being shown here. Like the blog posts are very much oriented to the big make it bigger features and stuff. But I think the thing that people are kind of sleeping on, like the thing that they're kind of like missing, is just the is what you can see in UE4 right now. Actually, is the modularity that we're trying to bring. The way that Chaos is a plugin, like the whole physics engine is a plugin now, right? Mm-hmm. What I would be afraid of if we were a black box and we forced you, if we didn't have this big plugin system and we forced everybody to use everything and you couldn't just turn it off when you're not using it, and it was this big black box kind of thing, I would be like, ooh, not so thrilled about, making it, bigger and more powerful. But because you can still, like, anything that you're not using, anything that you see, we just kind of encourage you to say, use what you want in Unreal and then cut out everything else. Just slice it right out and don't use it. And I think that that's why I'm not worried about, will this make I'm trying to think, like, put blinders on you or say that this is a narrow way that you have to do things. You have to do, it's like our way or the highway kind of thing. No, that's not going to be a problem, because you'll always be able to go into source. You'll always be able to turn things off. You'll always be able to write a utility blueprint to do it yourself. And so that's why I always see that fear and concern whenever some new feature comes out and indies are like, oh, so we have to do it your way now, because I had my own implementation. Like, no, it's a plugin. Just uncheck it, restart, you're good. So I think that there shouldn't be any new hindrances at all. It should just be all new goodies, and then if you don't want them, then just turn them off.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nadav, you want to have some questions? Because I think you almost fell asleep.
Me? No, I was talking non-stop.
I have some questions. I have a lot of questions, technically.
No, I have a million questions. Also, I would love to keep on talking about Dark Souls a lot with you, Alex. I have a lot to say about that game, but maybe some other stream.
I have very controversial, not Dark Souls fan opinions. So
no, that's great. I mean, but about you say solid stuff. I just wanted to tell you that, like, what about what Reborn said, that I'll try to maybe sharpen my point by saying that in movies, when you make a horror movie, right, as a director or a writer, you are not trying to aim it also to people who want casual movies. They're aimed at horror people, and people who are going to see that movie, they're not expecting a casual mode that will let them to enjoy performance without the horror elements. You know what? You see what I mean?
Yeah, so, no, I totally get that.
so designing or directing or envisioning a product just makes it better by I believe by staying clear in its design goals, like its initial vision or design goals. But on the other, but talking about UE5, the question of the day, the topic, I mean, like the tool I'm most excited about is actually Lumen, I have to say, because I'm also like a huge fan of lighting. I come from cinematography, and I love, like, the first thing that made me fall so in love, so deep in love with Unreal was the lighting features. They were so amazing and so easy to work with. And then seeing Lumen, it's like all the problems that I already had, like the GI that wasn't, it's still not working perfectly, and it seems like all of those things are going to be a thing of the past, and it will, I believe it will, for me as a game maker, it will allow me to make better games. Just this feature, like make my vision easier to make, in terms of lighting and composition and color and stuff like that. So yeah, totally. I think that's gonna change the way we make games, even indies, for sure.
Yeah, I think Lumen is going to save everyone a lot of hassle because of the way it's kind of doing away with UVs and stuff, right? Like, it's just like, I think that's kind of like the core thing at Epic. Every attitude we have is, how can we just make that easier, and just like, because everyone does a lot of the same things the same exact way, or a lot of people have to go through the same exact struggle, and so that was just one major quality of life increase.
I'm making a bit the devil advocate now, okay? Like always, you know me, right? And surely UE5 will lower down the entry point for making games, okay? Because people should not care of a lot of, let's say, of a good amount of technical things that then are at this moment required, at least to have some sort of knowledge of, right? And so it's kinda, you're giving us the new great toy of the century, right? That's and
exactly.
and we are super hyped for this. But you don't think then? Okay, this is kind of tough question. Okay, you don't think then lowering a lot, like you're doing, the threshold of entering and making a game, you don't have this problem because you have the Epic Store, so, and you decide what goes in your store based on merits, and that's the way then I see the life, and I love the life. If you deserve, then your game is into the Epic Store. It's because your games matter, right? And this is the personal approach than I have to all the things that I did in my life. I always approached everything in this way. I mean, it should be much more in a society which meritocracy, I don't know if it's a correct word in English, should be kept better. So you're making a way easier tool to use, and you have the Epic Store, which is meritocracy things. On the other way, we will overflow the Steam with a lot of even cheaper games, because the market now is super flooded. So and from the selling perspective, okay, from the market perspective, lowering a lot this edge, but there are literally a lot of engines out there, okay? Everyone without any, and you guys are making easier and easier and easier and easier and easier to use. And this is democracy, because everyone now can jump into a game without knowing the assembly, like David Crane made Pitfall, because they don't give a shit. But everyone can start to make a game. And on the other side, in Steam, you pay $100 and your game is there. And so basically that's what I really hate. Because basically you spend 3-4 years of your life making a game and crashing for yourself and crunching mode 7 days a week, 360, and you are in the same position of the guy that made really the stick game in 1 week. So this is completely a wrong model to me, because meritocracy should be something that matters in life. So you don't think that raising even lower more will produce a lot of, kind of cheap games that are now floating the market or not? This is an evil question.
So this is this is actually kind of an interesting question. You have to also remember, in its core, the term meritocracy was originally brought up as a satire, a joke, because it was an impossibility to hear, because humans are so flawed. We'll bring someone up and say, you're great. This idea is great. And then realize it was our own personal bias that made us think it was great. And then when it hits the wall, when it hits everybody, we're like, ooh, maybe not so much. So when we flood the market with tons of stuff, like what you see on Steam right now, if you go on there and then you saw how they had shovelware where it's like palette swaps, and they were just like swapping out icons on these breakout style games. I used to watch what would go in there too, because I was always interested in the newest indie games coming out, and it would be like one day 30 games would all get put in, and they're like similar titles, and they're all basically the same game with an image swap. Those never go anywhere. They flood things and then they die very quickly. And even with all of its flaws, like those games ended up not really making it. There are so many things you have to do when it comes to filtering. On the Epic Games Source side, it's much easier because we're already a big name in the game industry, and we reach out to people who are clearly, you're human, right? You have two human eyes. You look at a game and you go, that's quality, and that's going to be done. And I have clearly that studio is invested and they have financial backing, and it's much easier for them to go, okay, we're doing that. Where Steam wanted to, open up to everybody, and they found out how many students and people who are hobbyists really just wanted to jump in on that in some degree. So I think that's kind of an interesting place to talk about when we open up an engine to become more accessible, when we open up anything to be more accessible. What happens when we get flooded with all of this new stuff, and some of it is not of great quality, some of this is really good quality. It really does filter itself pretty well. It's just that you have to have an area to do the filtering, like where they had the Project Greenlight stuff. You knew if you were I know everyone and their brother on Twitter and social media, I would always see like, oh, Greenlight, it's awful. It's like, yeah, well, you knew what it was when you stepped into it. It's going to be the everything that's like, woof. And then there's a few gems in there, and you just have to sift through it yourself a bit. It is going to be tricky. I think that as the barrier to like Blueprints, I mean, I think we're past like the jumping the shark point, because visual scripting, like Blueprints, and then other engines also got their own visual scripts as well. After that, I mean, the number of indie game developers I've seen has skyrocketed. So we're already past the saturation point. What Unreal Engine 5 is going to bring isn't going to cause the massive jump that we saw just UE4 bringing in Blueprints, honestly. But I think that was like the defining feature of Unreal.
Yeah, I literally agree with that. So let me just say hi to Saxanth, and is together with us.
Hey,
Welcome,
Saxanth.
Sax.
Hey, Saxanth.
Is sleeping. You there? Can't hear you.
Family. Oh,
What?
well.
Did your wife kidnap you? Why don't I hear you so much? You there?
Yeah, hold on.
You're very low on voice, so. Alexander, if I may ask, coming with UE5, we're getting new stuff like
whatever's on the blog post. that's
yeah. Do you think the games will be larger with UE5 and all the new stuff that is coming up? And
I think
how
UE5 definitely encourages it. It's not that we're going to make you make them larger, but people are going to be encouraged because of the way that we're definitely showing off that it's what we really want to get across when it comes to the future of Unreal Tech is we're trying to remove limits. We're trying to remove them, and we're trying to make it so that you are responsible for your own limits. And so you're going to have to definitely have those discussions where you're like, oh, since we're limitless and we're going bigger and bigger and the worlds are bigger, is our audience going to actually have machines that can run that? And so, yeah, I think I think that's something you got to think about as a designer is if you're if other people are making maps that are like of 5 bajillion kilometers by 5 bajillion kilometers, you don't necessarily have to take that seriously because we all know how they're doing it is through like repetitive, techniques. But it's available now, so do you consider it? That's something to consider or not.
Yeah,
but I don't know. I would say that they're allowed, but we're not going to force anybody to make bigger games. That's for sure.
Okay, because what we've seen with the revolution of 4K and that kind of stuff, and also with things like megascans and that, I really love them. They're really, 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 really nice. But a simple megascan texture is already 140 gig of 140 MB, and now you're downloading games that are, for example, 80 gig.
Oh yeah,
and they're only getting larger and larger.
Full of trees.
It's not that we can
games. Yeah, like I've been playing. What is it? It was Elder Scrolls Online is like 150 gigs, and then I have Fallout 76, and that's like another 100 something gigs. Games aren't getting any smaller, and soon enough, terabytes are the standard hard drive size, right? Mm-hmm. And like clearly, that's not going to be a forever thing. Like we're going to be, into the 10 and 100 terabytes being the standard in no time. So yeah, like I think that game developers, there is something strange I've seen in a lot of big game developers, especially in the AAA scene, where they're just like, we're going to make the assumption that you have that space. We're going to make the assumption it's okay to take up half your hard drive with our game. And so that's going to come down to you as gamers complaining to game developers that it's not going to work for you, or it's going to come as you as game developers realizing that doesn't work for people. Like I've been to Tunisia. When I went to Africa, I learned from the game developers in Africa a lot about their difficulties as far as the size of the engine and the size of a game, and trying to download or upload that much data. And if you want to reach millions of people that are just actually billions of people that are just underserved in the gaming world, then yeah, you've got to think about these things. You got to, just because we say the cap is off doesn't mean you got to do it,
Yeah, and it's also not that we can just swap a drive and put them in. They're not cartridges.
Mm-mm.
I'm trying to.
Nadav here.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm forgetting my own comments. I implemented so many comments for the studio that I'm forgetting of these things. Saxanth, you there?
Yes. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
I know you have a special question.
I have two actually. I've got one.
Wait! One at a time.
I know, but I got one for the Twitch community. I just have a question on. We never got a response on why Epic decided to remove the Unreal Engine category from Twitch. I was wondering if you can give us some insight on that.
Actually, I actually can't. We actually talked about it before, and I have no idea. I actually was not here. I was in Spain. I actually quit Epic for about 2 years, lived in Spain, and during that time is when it happened. I'm gonna have to talk to them about it, but it looks like they created a tag instead. I'm not sure. Unfortunately, I was not community manager at the time.
Oh yeah, that was a real big hit to us,
I was a fan of it. I'll have to ask. Like, I can't say one way or the other why, unfortunately.
No, and that's understandable. I mean, there's things you can't talk about. And then the other question, if nobody else minds, is that, in your opinion, in the community side, how would you answer getting indie developers to keep their scope smaller for their games?
So we had kind of talked about this a little bit, and what I was talking about was a good example would be someone like like the game Arcus, or the game we were just talking about Carlos Coronado's games. He makes one game every 2 years or so. what I would say is that these people all have the same thing in common. Every indie developer that I see that is very successful has one of two things in common, and that is either one, tons of venture capital behind them because they got some connection, or two, and actually that would be more like that would be a better description for Siege and the Sandfox, who just got like a publisher and like grants, and they got like all this other stuff, and they're 100%. They're trying to sink everything in it, and they're stressed. I know those guys. I love them to death, and I know how much stress they're under. The other people would be like Carlos, who's on a boat half the time and drunk half the time, because what he does is he creates passive income. And what Arcus is kind of setting themselves up to do at now, they're kind of early off in this process, but what they do is, Carlos especially is a great example, is these people will make a series of smaller games. They'll create a vertical slice, the core mechanics, the things that they really need to do, and they'll make a handful of levels, and then they're done. And then they give themselves they scope themselves and they go, okay, I'm done here. No feature creep. This is it. And your feature creep, that's a new game. All your feature creep is a different game. It's really good. You don't need to have a design doc. You don't need to have the big, very formal doc early off. But what you really need to do is have an end goal in mind. This is what it looks like. And anything else needs to be held off until you can get past this. Because what's going to happen is the more you sit on the same game, eventually you will grow to resent it, and it will become painful to keep going forward. And that's why I'm like I was telling these guys earlier, it's like you might want to chapter your game. You might want to slice out like mechanics, but if you don't want to slice out any mechanics, chaptering is a good idea. Or making an expansion pack for the Frozen world. You were thinking about doing like a whole side story, like a story. One of the arcs could be an expansion pack. And it's good to think of it, especially when you're doing story-driven games, as am I telling one massive story, or am I telling a bunch of people's stories, and am I telling a bunch of different stories that intertwine? And in that way, Carlos, he's got like he's working on his third horror game. Well, not necessarily. The first one was more suspense. The second one was a horror game, and this one's kind of horror, kind of suspense in between. But if you play them, you'll see that they are all in the same universe. They're all spiritual sequels, prequels to each other, and that's how he's getting his vision across. Is he makes games, he puts them out, he has passive income because his old games are sitting there, and he sells the old assets he made himself. And he makes tutorials about how he made the games, and he sells them on Udemy-like sites, stuff like that. So for him, and Arcus is now putting out their first game and thinking about putting out an expansion pack as opposed to waiting off and putting in this whole other section of content. They're thinking about an expansion because the game is now out. They wanted to get it out the door. So it's more important to you as an indie to get it out the door. There's like a knot in your stomach of anxiety. You can feel it like it's physical. And until you push something out the door, it's going to be there. And then you can be like, oh, expansion pack. But psychologically, I don't want you to damage yourself becoming obsessed with creating Final Fantasy VII sized game. So that's my only advice if you're having a scope issue is consider how these guys float themselves by creating a bunch of assets that they then sell and create passive income, because he doesn't have to think about asset packs or old games that he's already put out. They're done.
Yeah, I want to say a thing about that. That is, I completely agree, but this doesn't fit completely with me. The way that I see the things. But let me reverse the things a second. I grew up with Zach McCracken, Maniac Mansion, Ron Gilbert stuff and things like that, and you don't think then. Beside the economical matter that we're talking now, if someone wants to really try, maybe I am a dreamer, okay? But if someone wants to really try to let us step in this world, like Carmack did, like Romero did, like Sweeney did, like, they were not striving for doing something scoping small. Okay, they started to some ideas like, I want to change the world. I want to be the next step. Without this kind of people, I mean, honestly, I understand perfectly what you mean, because I'm a feature creeper and because I'm creating a huge world, and I have so many code behind the curtains that sometimes it happened. I was so tired, not this week, last week, then I was trying 3 times to implement 3 mechanics than I did already. So that was insane. But should we try to transmit people, especially people like you, people like people that works in the industry, that you should try to kind of maybe push more people to try to left a footprint in this world, like with the scam system did Ron Gilbert, which is the more prolific guy in this world, to strive for literally making something new, making something different, creating some cool new features, new even new engines, something like that. Because I think there is some kind of equalization in nowadays, because accessibility, like you said, it's really making a game easy. Yesterday night I was seeing the GDC of David Crane for the 3rd time. Then he was explaining how the Atari VCS 2600 was working, and how they have to deal with the scan lines to make to draw the pixels and all assembly and all this stuff. I don't really want to talk of that, but at that time these people was innovators. These people was creating words. These people was really following their visions. So you don't think we should push more towards that side of the things?
I 100% think that you should. But that's just it. Like, the games that you described are actually what I'm describing, though. Like, Unreal, okay, go and look at Unreal. The game came out, right? And then what happened immediately? Expansion pack. Because the game came out, and then they had to come out with Return to Napali as an expansion pack, right? And Unreal Tournament wasn't part of the original Unreal. Unreal didn't have multiplayer. They wanted multiplayer, but they couldn't put it in until later, so they came out with Unreal Tournament. So what you're describing is actually kind of what I'm talking about. It's like, we have the game. Like, these big AAA games, you can have it. But what did they do is they actually, unbeknownst to you, this is actually what the problem is. It's perspective. From your perspective as a consumer, you thought Doom was Doom. No, Doom is about 90% of Doom. Then they had some extra levels sitting to the side, and then they came out with a sequel plus some extra levels, plus the ones they had sitting to the side that couldn't fit in the first game. Same thing happened with Unreal. Unreal came out, and you're like, cool, Unreal, amazing AAA game. Wrong. You got about 80% of a game. Then they had to put out an expansion pack, and then they had to put out a second game for the Unreal multiplayer. So that's where the mindset is like, ooh, I need to put out my one big, massive game. Yes, totally. Put out your game. But from your perspective, you actually thought that these games were the final product, but actually
they weren't.
If you look at Masters of Doom, the book, they explain these things. And if you look at actually, I talked to Alan Willard, the guy who worked on both Unreal and the expansion and Unreal Tournament, and he's the one who explained this to me. Is like, we had a 3-game contract. We couldn't put everything in the first game. If we did that, we'd be hosed. We got a 3-game contract from the publisher. If we put everything in Unreal, we would have had nothing for the expansion pack. We'd have nothing for tournament. We would have been hosed. And so that's when I was like, that it makes so much sense in my mind too, because I was the same way. I saw Unreal, I played Unreal, and I was like, this is an amazing complete game.
Yeah.
And then I got into Epic, and they're like, bro, that was like 80% of the game we wanted to make. And then we were like, we got to cut our losses and go.
that's a very good insight.
No, Unreal was made by 12 guys who were in their early 20s, and they were mostly not sober. So
That was great. That was amazing. We need a big clap. That's fucking awesome. That's what I love to hear, because that's the spirit of the things.
Yeah. No, here's a fun fact. There was actually a year where Tim Sweeney almost blew himself up at Halloween, making dry ice bombs, and they had to like stop a few. The developers were just drinking, and we were making. I can't tell you the whole story. Basically, at a certain point, we almost lost everything because these guys are so brilliant that they figured out how to make bombs. And then
Oh anyway, my god! Oh,
long story short, everyone's okay. They're all okay. No one got hurt.
That's insane. But that's okay. Okay, this is the point, Alex. This is the point. The sparkle is the point. We're missing a new generation that was the past generation with that sparkle. I really don't see this now. I mean, this guy was pioneers. This guy was, like garage guys, right? Like they wasn't giving a shit of. They just wanted follow and pursue their dreams, and that was the game changer. It's I think we need more dreamers. We need more people like him, have a crazy vision. And I'm not gonna say what is this GDC talk actually was. Ron Gilbert speaking of Maniac Mansion, I was saying it was good because we didn't know then that what was possible at that age and what wasn't possible. So we just sat down and did it.
Mm-hmm.
And
it still has been done, but not on AAA, I think, because they need the income, they need security.
Yeah, we're speaking on this side. I agree.
For any developers, they can.
Yeah, because you end up with prestige games like Last of Us and all that, where it's like they're good, they're big, they're very shiny and
don't talk me on The Last of Us, Unreal, because it was my favorite game. Because
I love it.
The relationship between father and stepdaughter was beautiful, and after they killed The Last of Us 2. Because everything was rotating around this relationship, and lost the sparkle. So I'm totally against The Last of Us 2. Sorry, guys.
I mean, in the sense of their prestige, this is what we refer to it as like high quality, shiny, like the Gears of War 4 or any of this. Like we don't just call it AAA because a AAA studio can make high quality games that are very, very stylized and all that. But prestige being the hyper real, trying its hardest to tell you a very, very movie like story while playing a game. It's not my style, but I think that if you look at those, you're never going to find true innovation, because even games like Heavy Rain, for instance, not innovative at all compared to Indigo Prophecy, which was a similar game but much smaller in scale and studio. But that's it. Is I think you're probably going to be looking more at indies because they're more dangerous in the sense that they'll try things like Cuphead. And Cuphead is a one-off. Like I said, that there's like two ways of being successful in game development, which is the high venture capital or the you kind of get smart about how you're going to sell everything and start selling chunks of everything. The other way is you really do just throw everything at it and make it happen, but that's very dangerous. But yeah, I think that you're going to see more indies. Like I think someone else was saying, like the indie world is definitely going to have a more innovative landscape when engines open up. And I think like if engines weren't opening up at the same time, I'd say we're hosed. If it wasn't for the fact that all engines seem to be getting easier to access and more indie friendly in general, I'd say that games are going to become more stagnant. But I don't care about Cyberpunk. I don't care about all these big games. My big game I'm watching right now is called Snacko, and it's a game where you play as like a pixelated cat, and you're doing some really innovative like farming-ish. It's kind of got like some Animal Crossing and some Harvest Moon and a bunch of other stuff, but it has a lot of innovation to it in its gameplay. And so I was like, cool, it has combat and all these other things. And that's not going to come out of a lot of bigger studios right now who are going to play it safe. So yeah, I'd say that with engines opening up, you'll see that go away. And you'll see that opening up from indies, but you won't see like where we're having Deus Ex and we're having, like these early like 90s. What we're talking about really is the 90s innovators.
Yeah.
The innovators will come from indie studios,
Well, as you're talking about innovation, I'm kind of interested to hear what you think about the VR realm. Do you think that, post UE5 and RTX and the whole, video card revolution, I guess, is going on right now, you think VR is going to start getting bigger because it's so much cheaper to get in, get into VR, or do you think that VR is kind of still is going to be a niche product for a while?
I think that if I'd say VR is like 5% of the market total has some access to VR, and they're kind of into it, and they'll do it. And then I think over time you're going to see that increase to maybe about 10% over the next few years. But VR as it stands, as a essentially a monitor you attach to your face with a 6-axis gyro and some other tracking software. I actually got really into Arduinos and hardware stuff. I built my own VR gloves. I love VR, so I want to make sure this is understood. I come from a place of loving VR a lot. It's not going to become something outside of niche for a while, and then I think we're waiting for like a third iteration of VR before we're going to really hit a large market, because the first generation didn't hit anything. Let's be honest, the 80s, early 90s VR was super clunky.
I was playing decent on that 90s VR. Was throw up every single.
What was it called? I played Beachhead, the arcade game where you had to like put the giant plastic visor over your head. I played it. I was into it. I have a Vive. I had an Oculus DK2. Epic put me into a bunch of stuff. Fun fact, I got some sort of illness because of Epic and VR, because at Epic they gave me a VR headset and they're like, learn how, this is like early, like when the DK2 first came out, and they're like, learn about it, Alex, so that you can answer questions. And I threw myself into it. I'm like, I'm going to jump off of a building all day, Matrix style. And I did that, and I got out of it, and I gained vertigo. I didn't have vertigo before that, but now
that's insane.
So, but I don't get motion sickness in VR at all. I am completely dead to VR motion sickness. But in real life now, if I look down something too far, I will get vertigo, and it's all because of VR. It can actually affect your brain. Actually, I did a lot of research into VR. Children under the age of 7 should not use VR. It will make them believe that they are wherever the VR headset tells them they are. It is actually terrifying.
Oh, that's terrifying. True. That's true.
Yeah,
wow.
It was the scariest thing when they were talking to the kid. Like, they put a kid in VR kind of thing. We didn't do it, but I was reading about it. It's like they put a kid in VR and they take them out and they're like, "Cool, what did you do today?" And they're like, "I was in a fantasy land and it was totally real." Yeah, but VR will carve out more space, especially because the new graphics cards are so accessible and they're so powerful. And now even a standard issue basic graphics card is like a 20-something series, and that's. Yeah, so it's all VR accessible now. Like, if someone has a 980 Ti, that sounds low end at this point.
Yeah, I was. So we're kind of having that same issue doing a contract work for a studio in Burbank, where they deal with a lot of kids. So it was like they wanted to have a VR application for these kids, and we're like, it's not a good idea, and get to see their real life hero essentially. It's probably not a good idea. And kind of the same things that you were saying, where they actually believed that they were there. It's kind of scary.
Yeah, you definitely have to tell your clients, I cut it off at a certain age, because there's no laws at all, especially in the United States. We don't have anything that's like VR experiences should not have an age limit. Basically, we just don't have that. And so, I would be terrified if my client was like, "We want to design a thing for 5-year-olds." I'd be like, "I'm out. Sorry."
Nope.
We should blame John Carmack.
Yeah. Dang.
Nadav, you there? Is working your microphone?
You're a little bit. You sound a little bit like Will I Am doing a song, but I mean, I can hear you.
That's good.
No.
Yeah, you're lagging. It sounds like you're lagging really bad.
Yep. It's you sounds like a robot.
Can you say tonight I'm gonna have a real good time?
I'm gonna have a real good time.
Yep, he sounds like Will I Am.
Good job.
Restart your connection.
Yeah, restart. I'm sorry, I'll be right back. I'm just handling something off screen.
Okay.
So-
What do you think of actually? I love VR. I have a PS5 VR. I have an Oculus developer kit 1, and I love VR. Beside the fact that I get motion sickness, and after I play Gran Turismo for 30 minutes, I don't feel really good. But I really think I really love more augmented reality, AR.
AR.
Yeah, I love way more, in which it's because it's a kind of a fusion between two different worlds. That's what excites me more than VR. I don't know if what do you think, guys, about that?
Interesting. It's an interesting field. I believe it's an interesting field of study just because eventually how over time, over the last 20 years, we're taught to learn things differently, right? So how to get to a store, for instance, go down to the corner street, turn a left here, make a right. When you see Tommy's big tree at the end of the driveway, you're there at the store.
Well,
But
I must
future-wise,
say that in my childhood, well, I'm old, but I must say that in my childhood, I never got lost because I didn't have a GPS. So we are kind of a bit spoiled, right? If you think in that
right.
way.
And I'm thinking in the next 15 years, whenever everybody has AR as kind of a replacement for their phone, that you're not if you did not have that device, you would not know how to get around even your own neighborhood, your own area, because you've relied on it for so long. As a teenager, I used to remember phone numbers. I used to have all of my friends' phone numbers. I used to know what, my mother's work number was, my dad's work number was, all of it. I remembered it all, we had little cards in the Rolodex if we couldn't remember it, but
Yeah.
going into the future, now I can't remember anybody's number. If anybody's like, "Oh, what's your phone number?" I'm like, "Oh, crap, I don't remember." Like I have to go and look it up because that's something you don't need to do anymore. And I'm thinking the same thing in the next 10, 15 years when AR becomes a thing, that you're not going to know how to get around without your device to tell you go forward 15 steps, take a left at the road, and it just shows you how to get there.
They didn't map the manual, and you get died in the sewer because they didn't map the manual.
Exactly.
I mean, that's really terrifying. This is okay. If this is the future, call me an old guy, but this is really terrifying. Honestly, if this is what we're going forward.
This is how I think it's going to be. You've got Neuralink from Neuralink, of course, and then you're going to have
Elon
some
Musk.
sort of and then some sort of AR development kit, and they're just going to talk to each other, and you're literally not going to think. It's just you're going to say, "Oh, I want to go to XYZ, I want to go to the corner store," and you're just going to know how to get there. You don't have to think about it, and the AR device will point you in the direction. Whenever you need meeting and reminders or whatever, twitch in your arm or something. Oh, you just got stung by a bee. Okay. And then it'll be like, go seek immediate help, but we'll numb the pain until then. Something, weird things, but of course, and then I can go off into Cyberpunk 2044 type era where it's like, when you go to bed, you basically plug in and do work at night, and then your brain does processing work while you're sleeping. So they use Neuralink. I don't want to use the company name,
They
but
should
you use
pay
some
me
sort of device like that.
from using my processing brain power.
Well, and they would pay you to have your home and your life, and then during the day, during your waking hours, you're you get to go do whatever you want to do and
I'm
have your own
insomniac.
life.
I'm an insomniac guy. I can't fit that.
What was the name of that movie? There was a movie like that. Sorry.
Oh, was that?
Don't I recall?
Man?
No.
Did that have Bruce Willis in it? Is that the same one you're thinking of?
No, it was one about like people would be fugitives, and like kids would take over their brains to play Call of Duty, and like that's how they would do
Gamer.
executions.
Yeah, gamer.
Gamer.
Yeah, the gamer.
Yeah.
That's
But that-
it is like like at night you just like get up and start like fighting people and crap. Like thanks, Elon.
Yeah, all this sounds
I-
terrifying.
It does sound terrifying, but honestly, I think if anybody can do it right, I think Elon can do it right. I think he's got actual goodwill behind him versus some other higher powers out there.
I don't know.
Yeah,
Me neither.
Me
I
too.
think if all that power goes to your head,
But if the question still remains, augmented reality for gaming depends. I love a lot more the virtual reality instead of augmented reality. But there is a really open set, especially for not gaming. Augmented reality is very powerful. For example, for medical use and that kind of stuff, and that's already used for that kind of stuff. Like your doctor is having some HoloLens too, and can see the organs and what's going to happen. And
so you say
the
me then you don't want to go around and catch Pokemon, on your neighborhood?
for especially Pokemon Go with augmented reality would be perfect. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So think about it. They made as much money off of Pokemon Go than they did the first 9 Pokemons they sold. So was it a marketing thing, or was it, were they trying to advance a story, or were they trying to make money? That's how I look at it.
I've met the Niantic guys before. They're sweet. They're trying.
Yeah.
But I think that their goal with Pokemon Go is actually not. This is like the thing where it's like, what happened? Like, I'm gonna pull the curtain up real quick. Okay, so take the curtain up. Pokemon Go is a front. In the same way that the Harry Potter game they made is a front. In the same way that the other game that they made, that whatever the spy game that they made way back in the day, that they based off of their all their world points off of. Niantic's end goal,
Ingress, right? Ingress.
Ingress,
thank you.
Yeah, Ingress.
Yeah, it was Ingress. So Niantic's end goal is a world map. They want a map of points of interest, not some Google Maps like here's all the local businesses in town thing. They want a thing that people actually marked and said, this is a points of interest, and they want to create a universal system for using global points for this. And so at the end of the day, the reason that Pokemon works so well is because it's a very popular IP that was promising the things that all the fans of, if you're a Pokemon fan and grew up in that's all you ever wanted in life, was the ability to go somewhere and play with quote unquote real Pokemon. And they did a good job, but their goal, the higher ups goal there, is definitely GPS world map. And then the people who actually work on each individual game are typically diehard. Like the people who work on the Pokemon Go game are pretty diehard, game developers who love Pokemon. But just always be aware that in the background, Niantic is trying to just create a giant database of points.
Well, and I look at that and I always think about, game development is awesome. It's very rare that a game developer is going to make money off of the game itself. More likely, they will make money off of the technology that they built for the game they developed. And I kind of think the same way goes along with Pokemon Go, and that studio is they didn't really build the game. The game already existed. They just put it into a new format and then extended the technology of being able to play literally massively multiplayer online, right?
I think Pokemon is smaller than Ingress even. It's a simplified form of Ingress, right?
Yeah, Ingress has way more gameplay.
And Ingress was less successful, although it has much more content and much more things to do.
Well, the reason it was
the
less successful is because it's all PvP and everyone hated everyone, and it was a game driven by malice. So I knew people who played it. They would get into physical fights with other people who played it because because in Pokemon you're like, oh, I found a Pokemon, and everyone comes running over and they're like, thanks for telling me there's a Pokemon over here. In Ingress, you're like taking over something, and someone's like, I'm taking that over, and you chase them and beat them up,
break their phone.
The thing what I really liked of Ingress is I didn't like the Pokemon Go style, so I installed Ingress. And I installed it during my vacation time. And the funny thing with Ingress is, if you install Ingress on vacation, you see a lot more of your vacation of secret spots that you normally don't see if you visit the town.
Yeah. Oh yeah, look, that's actually really what's kind of cool about it is finding new places in town.
Because I was at Paris and I've seen stuff in Paris that you normally not see when you take a bus tour. And if you play Ingress, oh, let's go there.
Yeah.
Or let's not.
Yeah.
It is. Okay, I have a kind of couple of questions, you know. I have a lot of. I'm like a kid in his young years. Then there's a lot of questions. So why this? Why that? Why this? Why that?
Me too, by the way. After you,
Go on, Nadav. Go on.
I have some question about 426. Actually,
Oh yeah, what's up?
will we get chaos working on 426? Chaos physics?
Oh, I don't know if you saw the recent announcement, but it's like separated a bit, so it's still not fully like part of the whole of the engine, so it's still like a checkbox thing. So you're probably waiting for a while. I think in 426 it gets like some amount of implementation, but I think that we're still working heavily on chaos, so we're a little reluctant to just force that in. So
Put it all in there.
So okay,
yeah,
Alex,
in the future you'll see it. Yeah, for sure.
how did you get into Epic?
Mhm.
We're going personal.
Okay, yeah, like if you wanna know how my pipeline, because everyone's different. Everyone will tell you a different story, because everyone got in a different way.
Because
Epic is
because
Mhm.
what sorry, I'm interrupting a second here. Because what I was talking
No, you're good,
today
you're good.
to Alex, that you know, for us developers, the stars are the guys that are making the engine. The guys are Epic. That's why we have you as guest stars, because beside the fact that we're admiring you, you are building this huge ecosystem in which every of us can find his own passion, his own fun, and his own stuff. That's why this personal question: how did you get to Epic?
So I think this is like, for me, what I went through was kind of unique. I know a couple. I actually can't say that I'm totally alone, because I actually know several other people that did the exact same thing I did, and it worked for them. But I also know a lot of people who did the exact same thing I did and it didn't, because either they didn't put in the hours or other things just didn't happen for them. But basically, what I did is I was in a college. I was in a community college, Wake Tech, really nice little school, and I was. This is very early in the game development kind of thing. It was like in 20. No, not you wouldn't even say 20. It was 2009. I was like fresh out of high school, and I went into a game development college, and I had kind of bummed around, worked at GameStop during this time, and didn't do much of anything. And I went to this college, and they were teaching UDK, and so I was learning UE3 essentially. But the teachers there didn't know how to do, like, they weren't scripters, so I was learning Kismet a lot. I was learning a lot of different parts of how game development worked in general, Game Maker. We didn't actually cover Unity at all. I learned they didn't cover CryEngine at all. Didn't cover a lot.
What is Unity?
We did a lot of things.
What is Unity?
Yeah.
I don't know it. Sorry.
Oh. I just mean, like, the scope of what we learned ended up being generalist, but it was through UDK and through Game Maker and through we actually used 3ds Max, and then later they switched to Maya. So long story short, game development college. I'm like in my second year of it, and Funcom actually was the first company I worked for. Funcom needed someone, and I took up a customer service job, and it was great. I liked Funcom, and then the game didn't do well, and they had to lay off people. It was sad, but they are under great new management, and I have a ton of friends that work there, and they say it's great. So I went to Funcom, and I did that for a little bit, and then came out. But when I got back to school, one of my friends was like, well, there's a recruiting company. And so here's what Epic does: is there's two ways to get into Epic, and one is you can go to careers.epicgames.com, and you can go apply. And you could even make up your own job and just say, Epic needs this. And we have hired people straight up who have come in and just written in like, the engine clearly needs a programmer who does this. And I do that. And you don't have a job listing, but I'll make one for you. And that was a thing you could do. I don't know if it's still running, but it was a thing that people could do and worked. But yeah, careers.epic.com. Go there and see what they have. Or you can be a contractor. And that's what I did is I found a recruiting company called Volt. And it had a different name back in the day, and they changed the name. But basically it was a contracting company, and they would just go to colleges and they would grab up swaths of students, and then every game development company would just say, send me 20. They'd just be like, send me 20 of your finest newbies, and I want them for QA. And so I got brought in to an interview for a thing, and it was very funny. The company goes, the recruiting company goes, oh, you're getting recruited for a game company here, or you're going to be interviewed for a game company. We can't tell you who. And so I said, oh, Epic Games must be the client. And the recruiter was like, how did you know? It's like, because in the area, in North Carolina, no one, if you're not in the United States, you've never heard of North Carolina, really. You don't know what it is. It's a state that no one cares about.
I heard it.
You've heard the words, but if I held up a map, could you find it really? No.
Raleigh. How's the name?
I
Is Raleigh? No, a Raleigh? How is it spelled?
Raleigh. That's our capital. Yeah.
I know it. I'm not Googling it.
What are you, like 40 minutes away from Raleigh?
Yeah, exactly. So I'm in like the Chapel Hill. Like I'm far off from Raleigh, but Raleigh is where Epic's HQ is. And so basically the whole entire thing was like, here, no one knows it, but the hub of video games is here in North Carolina, in Nowheresville state, kind of place. But they subsidize technology companies. So Insomniac is here, Funcom is here, Red Storm is here, Ubisoft is here. Everyone has a branch here in North Carolina, and no one knows about it. And so the thing is, when they recruited me, I was like, yeah, clearly the only person who's super secretive is Epic. And I got brought in as engine QA. So I got brought into Epic as engine QA. I was a contractor through an outside third-party company, and over time, they basically said, like, we want to form a new branch for support, and it's for what was then called the Rocket Beta for Unreal. You had a code name, and so we ran. I did that for a while, and then when the engine came out, and our job as QA people was to then help, like the first few months was just people like, oh, I'm going to open Unreal. And then things would just go horrible for them because they had no idea how blueprints were supposed to work or how anything was supposed to work. And literally only about 14 people were able to, one, know how to fix it, and two, talk to the public. Everyone else was on the engine team because it was so few people had actually used Unreal at that point. And so I was one of those people. On answers.unrealengine.com, my whole job was just to sit there, and every question that came in, I had to answer it. I had to come up with an answer. And over time, so many questions came in that became a community thing instead. And then the thing that got me hired on Epic was I was working doing this, and then they said, we need you to, I was working in the office, but as a contractor, and they said, like, do you want to become you want to become like a manager essentially of these people, and if so, then they're going to hire me. No, I said and I had to go through a bunch of interviews essentially. But yeah, if you do it my way and you're internal, it's a little bit easier, but you're basically going to work for Epic for a couple of years as a contractor before they're like, okay, we like you enough to hire you. You're safe. You're safe. The other method is careers, and you're going to get grilled. You're going to get grilled so hard. It's worse than the SATs. It's worse than any test you've ever taken. And they will, the second time I came to Epic. So the first time I did that, and then I quit for 2 years to work in Spain. And then I came back to Epic, and they're like, cool. So now you're going to have 10 interviews with different groups to make sure that you're okay.
Oh my
and
god.
all this. I'm like, I used to work for you guys. They're like, yeah, it's a formality though, you know. But you're gonna have 10 interviews, and I kept showing up to the interviews. I'm like, hey guys, and they're like, oh hey Alex, you're coming back, and then yeah, and then that was the whole interview for me. But if you didn't already have a big in like I do, if you didn't already know everybody, if you didn't already have a bunch of friends, you would go through a ton of interviews, and you'd get a massive test, and they would expect you to pass with flying colors. And so, yeah, there's really two ways into Epic, and one is a long time process of working for them, contracting with them, and then finding an opportunity within the company that they have to hire you for, which is what happened to me the first time. And then the second time is the kind of cold turkey. I'm going to apply and see how it goes, and then that's when they're going to be like, I got to grill you very hard. You're going to have tons of interviews and a test, and it's not going to be an easy test. It's not going to be one of those little ones. So that's it. But once you're in, my lord, I've never met a better crew of people. I've worked in the industry for like 10 years now, and I've never met a better game company, and I don't see myself going anywhere else ever again. I only ever left because I needed to find myself and travel the world. And then when I left, Tim Sweeney himself said, I hope you'll come back someday. The door's always open. And when I came back, Tim Sweeney hugged me. Personally, I walked into the cafeteria, and he saw me, and he's like, "You're back!" And he hugged me, and that will always be a memory of mine that I hold dear, because he's always been super cool.
I would have to agree. Every true Unreal Engine or Epic Games engineer that I have ever met has been the coolest person in the industry.
They're so sweet. The guys, Nick Darnell and Michael Nolan made a lot of the engine, and Lena Halper is like all the animation stuff. And I've never met just funnier and sweeter people that when I was a kid, I mean, I was 20 something, but I was first at Epic, and I was a contractor, and I walked in the door, and I was like, these people are going to eat me alive. They're going to make fun of me. No, they sat me down and like, oh, you poor baby. You've never been in the industry before. Let me teach you. Let me be your guide. And they were sweet. And Lena always makes you laugh. If you ever sit down with Lena Halper on the animation side of things, she will always find a way to make you laugh. She's a sweetheart.
Yeah, that's these things are really awesome. We get a question for chat. Go on, Sax.
All right, Hosmax says, he says that he's read the Alexander's from Barcelona. He wants to ask, how do you think game development and Unreal Engine development is going in Spain?
So I'm from North Carolina. I lived in Spain for 2 years in Barcelona with my wife. And I'd say that in Spain, it's actually sort of cool because a lot of Europe is in sort of the same problem where each country, almost its state, each country kind of handles its game development world a little bit differently. And I'm thinking that probably different countries subsidize different amounts. I think Spain does okay. They could definitely do more for their game developers as far as indie game developers getting subsidies. I know that like Tequila Works and like a couple other big Spanish companies are doing okay. They actually, funny enough, the game development schools in Spain, I worked at one of them. They're pretty solid. So yeah, I'd say that it's up and coming. The Carlos Coronado is a Spanish game developer. He's out of Spain. He's one of like the big ones, I'd say. And they the biggest thing that I see out of Southern Europe, in the Mediterranean in general, like Italy, Spain, Greece, everywhere I've been there, is that they're generally a little underserved, because Germany and England and even Sweden get a lot of attention in the game development world. So I'd say out of all the Mediterranean, Spain and then maybe Italy next would be the two that are getting a little bit of attention. I'm hoping personally to drag Epic towards helping Tunisia a little bit more, because I like North Africa. I think that there's potential there that's completely untapped.
Absolutely.
As well as like the whole Mediterranean is untapped.
That's awesome.
People, guys in chat, don't be scared to make questions to Alex. I am scared enough for you. So people was asking me in Discord if they can make questions to you, and I said, okay, if I bypass the scary thing, you can do. Actually, Alex is here for how much more? 20 minutes, I guess.
Oh, just a few more minutes. I see Hosmax. You said you're from the Canary Islands. They're a beautiful place. Beautiful. I have to go there. I have a friend who goes there all the time. All my friends say you have to go to the Canary Islands and Majorca and Menorca, and like all the. I know the Canary Islands are off of Africa, but still, all the Spanish-controlled islands are apparently very nice.
Have you ever been to Israel?
I haven't been to Israel. I've been through a couple other parts of the Middle East while flying, but I spent a lot of time more in India and then in the Mediterranean. I'm sorry, Israel is part of the Mediterranean, but I haven't been to the Israel side. I've been more on like the western side. I think Tunisia and Italy are about as more east as I've gotten on the Mediterranean.
We are really thirsty here for Epic people to come and enlighten us. It's like 90% Unity guys here.
Yeah,
I'm teaching Unreal in the university here and in another school, and I'm really trying to push students to work with the engine.
I know it's not Israel. I know it's not Israel at all, but it's a little bit in the same area, sort of, kind of. But we actually do have a Lebanese. I mean, like it's next door, but we have a Lebanese game developer who is our I don't know if you know Joseph Azam, but Joseph Azam.
Yeah, he just made a stream earlier. This last streams. Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah, and I met him in the last Epic in what was that, in Budapest, I think. No, in Prague. Sorry, the Prague event.
So he can join our voice.
Oh, sorry. What was that?
No, I said I met him at the Prague event.
Oh, in Prague. Yeah. No, he and I actually go way back too. We've been through some stuff together, So if you ever see him, say, hey, Alex came on too. But he's the guy. Like we are reaching. Like we don't have an Israeli guy, but he's the guy in your region that's going to be the one to talk to, who will be able to try to help you. I mean, he was also, I don't know how he's doing right now. Like the last time I talked to him was not shortly after the second explosion went off and they, the harbor there, because he was near that, it was in the news where the warehouse blew up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I just checked in on him after that. And now that you're mentioning it, it's like, I should go triple check on him, make sure, he's all right. But yeah, he's your guy.
Thanks.
I have another question.
Of course.
I know, I am a kid, guys.
I hope it's a personal one.
I hope it's a
personal one.
Okay. For someone that personally sucks at marketing, what's weird. Okay, why you're laughing? I know my limits. I suck at marketing, guys. I suck at social media. I suck at all this stuff. I'm really bad at it. Why you're laughing? I still didn't do the question. Just give me a second. What's the human advice you can give to someone that sucks at these disciplines? To spread this game, promote this game to someone who completely and even doesn't like that. Okay, this is my personal question, guys.
So, the thing that I would say is, when it comes to marketing, generally what happens is, especially in the indie game development world, is you're a person who's very good at making a game, and then you get to go put out your game, and you realize that no one's even heard of you or your game, and you're about to put it out the door, and you're like, oh, no one has any reason to even buy this because they don't know why. This is where Carlos really excels, because he's and this is another thing, is like I talked to Lost Goblin. I don't know if you know Lost Goblin Games, but I talked to them ages ago when they were first starting their game, which is a very large RTS. It's like in the same scope where you are in a world where you're like, I cannot break this up into chapters, so it's big. Mm-hmm. And so my advice to them was that you'd be surprised the amount of social media marketing material that is free for you to look at, and you should check it out. Like I got into Epic as QA, like I explained, but I went through support, and then I went in community, where in community, that's marketing team. And so I learned how to do marketing, and they just sat us down one day and they're like, here's what you need to know on Twitter, Facebook, social media, at all. Number one thing you can do, animated GIFs. It's pronounced GIF, by the way, not GIF. And we know this because someone who works at Epic worked on the animated GIF format, that .gif. If you've ever seen that before in your life, I don't know. It's not that popular. .gif format. Maybe you've seen it. But one of the guys who works on it works at Epic now.
Awesome.
And he's actually an engine programmer. And he told me himself it is pronounced .gif. And so we learn things like GIF format images. If you're making a Twitter, Facebook post, whatever, don't put a video because sometimes it doesn't stream right. Don't use just a static image, and definitely don't use text. And definitely limit yourself to maybe a couple of hashtags, not a ton, 1 or 2. And we learned a lot of these things. And then I'm like, well, where can I find out more? And they're like, dude, Google it. You'd be surprised that marketers in the game world, or people who worked in the game world, write Gama Sutra articles all the time about what they did. And there was like a guy who did an indie game, and he was explaining that he didn't expect to sell more than 400 copies. He sold thousands because he just kept posting animated GIFs. Whatever he thought was funny, he would make something stupid happen in his game where something would explode funny and a cat would fall over and a guy would go floppy and ragdoll. Everyone thought it was funny. Next thing he knows, he's gone viral. And that translates. It might take thousands of viral likes, retweets, whatever, to translate to one sale. But he found that that's what he was doing. Is all it took was a lot of effort on his part. Basically, as he was working, something would happen, something funny would happen, and he was like, "Oh, I'll just record that, put it on Twitter." Next thing he knows, he actually does have a following, because that's what you want, is not just a following, but a following that's interested in the exact thing that you're doing. So when you're making this game, if it bugs out, if it does something funny, you want the same audience that laughs at that to be the same one that's going to be like, okay, well, now that I'm here and the game is out, I'm going to give you money. And if you're doing it like that, then that's going to be the same audience. So he did a really good job on that. I have to go look up the name. And then Lost Goblin did a great job. After I started talking to them, they reduced the amount of hashtags they used, because bots that retweet will look at hashtags, but if they see 30 hashtags, they'll ignore you. If they see 5, some of them will pick you up. If they see 3, they'll pick you up. And so they did it, and I watched their numbers completely change.
Nice,
and then they were only doing GIFs. Like, even if it was
I have a billion of hashtags. You know why I suck at marketing for these things, guys. I'm down. I'm completely down for this.
Have you ever seen the stuff that I post on Twitter that actually goes viral? Like, does anything? It's like I just rig a deer and make it do the YMCA dance kind of thing, and people love that. But if I post something serious, no one gives a shit.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, me honestly.
Yeah.
Well, I am not your followers.
So I actually got a question, and I know you can't talk about future stuff, but as far as how Rocket Beta went into when we finally went open source, or not open source it, when we finally released it to the public, do you think that there's going to be a same type of issue moving on when we go to UE5, or do you think it's semi close to UE4, that there's not going to be that huge information dump? Everybody's trying to learn a whole new technology.
Oh no. They learned a hard lesson from 3 to 4, where 3 was Kismet and then 4 was Blueprints, and everyone had to have a big learning curve.
Right.
4 to 5 is going to be like a breeze. If you know 4, you're not. This is the thing, is everyone's already asking me left and right. People are clobbering me for, Alex, do you already have a bunch of tutorials lined up, ready to go online the second that UE5 hits, so that I can learn UE5? And I have to keep being I don't know why you would think we would do something terrible to you again. We already learned the lesson. It'll be a smooth transition. It really
was very hard.
And the porting, let's talk about maybe having a huge big project on process. Me too. Personally, we're still working on 423 because 421 got bugged in time, so I'm still working on 423. I will be the transition porting a huge project from 4 I love 423. Come on.
I use it too.
I will be deporting. It will be, kind of complex. It will be kind of easy way, especially for big, huge projects.
I mean, we don't foresee, like, it varies project to project, of course, but we don't. You can also check I think we did another interview. Like, a couple of our guys came out, and I've been trying to stay on top of what they say about UE5 so that I can say things, because everyone always asks me. And one of the things that they kept saying is the transition should either be totally seamless or you did something very deep, and so you'll have to talk to us. But it's very, 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 very rare that that it should come up as an issue. The UE4 to UE5 transition for most people, what it should feel like is, our goal in the end is it should feel like you got a new engine version that is super slick. And it just feels like, whoa, they did a lot between versions. Really, that's how it should feel.
Cool.
All right.
Not like a major version, but like just a natural extension of what is UE4 now, right?
It should feel like, like we've gotten a major update, and Unreal is really pushed forward and all this. But I think that's it. Is like your brain needs to take away the number and just start going, it's Unreal, and then this is like Unreal bigger and fancier, and that's it. So it should feel like at this point we've kind of figured it out.
And so now that I have no limits, I'm gonna spend 20 years to make my game.
But it's really funny.
Yeah, you're good. Just you go right ahead.
What?
Well, I mean, in all reality, like, how much can you talk about the technology? Because I have like tons of questions, maybe not engineering related, but when you say unlimited, are you there's some technology around it?
No, I'm very limited. It's just whatever's in the blog posts. What I do at Epic now, by the way, is I'm a trainer. I teach people how to use UE4 more than anything, and so I'm not an engineer. I don't have one. I'm not that. Two, I don't have approval. There is a massive approval thing that I'd have to go through to talk about it. So it's really, a lot of it's going to be me kind of
pointing me to
the blog
website.
post and. Unfortunately, but the most I can really say about it is, as an indie, you're not going to get hurt, and if you're going for very, very, very large projects, then you're going to feel like, oh wow, this is a lot easier now,
Right. I just want to put this out there. A project that I'm working on right now has 36 million triangles within, I don't know, maybe a 30 by 30 meter radius. And UE4 is all over itself right now, so we're really looking for that UE5 to come up.
Oh, for the optimization, for sure. Yeah.
So.
No, definitely check it out. And then, worst case thing is, like, if you're having a big issue with all that we have some optimization tools. It just depends on what you're trying to achieve,
Yeah, I mean, and on that particular project, we do have a contact, so. But it's like, it's unfortunate because of the project that we're working on. Of course, I can't talk about it either, but that particular project is like,
well, you're top secret
super
today,
important.
Guys.
Oh, but you have a TM though, right?
Yeah, we have a TM. We've got the whole thing. So it's just I'm ready for the next thing because I'm frustrated.
You know what you can do, right? You got a TAM with Epic, right?
I would
right?
that's
what you're saying?
I'd have to go up, yeah.
Yeah, but if you've got some kind of contact with Epic through a technical account manager, those guys directly talk to me, and you can. I don't know what kind of relationship you have, but you can just straight up ask them, like, hey, can we get training from the training team, and can we get Alex to do something? And I will, like, basically call into your company, and then I will train you. That's actually what I do at Epic now. Is the TAMs basically call me in to be the savior of your problems.
That's awesome. Yeah, because I'm sure that they could use it. I'm on the engineering side of that table. It's the art side that kind of is like they're going above and beyond. So I don't want to derail the conversation. I just can't wait for UE5 is what I'm saying.
I mean, Alex has an appointment in 5 minutes, guys. So if you have very, very quick question, I mean, I could keep Alex here for 12 hours, but it will hate me after. So yes,
No, I love talking. I do.
What?
I just have I do have a D&D game in 5 minutes.
Yeah,
it is. And that's it.
It is a D&D game. So if you have a quick question, guys, shout really quick questions. And
Thank you very much for being here, Alex.
No, thank you for having me. I'll have to come back again in the future, I hope, if you'll have me.
Yeah, next Friday is good. Next Friday is good. Huh? What?
Are you DMing, Alex?
Oh no, I mean I have a game I used to DM, but right now I'm just playing. It's actually the game that my wife is in, and I'm kind of jumping in as a character and all that. But also I'm hoping that you should have my wife come on to your channel and chat, because she also, one, she works at Epic, and then two, she works in accessibility as far as widening your audience and how to make it you can have a more difficult game but have more people play it, kind of thing.
That's great. Ooh. You know, we can talk. For me, we can do another stream tomorrow with your wife. It's perfect. You know, Oak is in the channel. Hey, Oak, welcome. But you are damn late.
Yeah, we're wrapping it up now.
Welcome, Oak.
Oh no, Rudy. Rudy and I went to college together. You know, I was telling they asked me, Rudy, they asked me like, how did I get into Epic, and I was explaining going to Wake Tech, and Rudy and I went to Wake Tech together. That's how I'm sorry, Oak the Wise, and I went to school together, and he is a great blueprint person. If you ever have blueprint questions, he's a sweetheart.
Basically what he's doing, Oak, is spending all this time helping all the streamers in they are homeless in category, and because we don't have any more an Unreal Engine category, so we are technically homeless, and Oak is spending all this time helping all the streamers that are gonna pushing, evangelizing the engine every day, and is gonna getting a lot of questions for a lot of different streamers, and spending all his time helping and being a super cool person. And personally, I mean, if Epic keeps, you know, pushing also in Twitch, it's because Oak is doing an awesome work, honestly. And everyone can say that. Oak, if you want to, if you Oak, why don't join us in the channel?
Yeah, you can hop in, buddy. I actually have to run on my D&D thing in like 2 minutes, so you should come in and hang out.
No, we have some conversation. That sounds like a...
Alex, for me, it's a big thank for, you know, from the bottom of my heart. It was really great having you here, and I hope to having you, you know, really, really soon back, if according to your of course, you know, meetings, appointments, and stuff. And when your wife will love to come into one of the next streams and talking of, you know, the accessibility, like you said, and the learn.unrealengine.com, the portal will be such a great thing having her with us. And I can say, you know, from our community, a big huge thanks. And if you guys ever missed, you know, something, this stream will be in the tube channel soon. I cannot say thanks enough to you, Alex, and that is really great.
Well, really, thank you guys for having me. I had a really good time hanging out here and all that. I think any chance I can get to just come out and clarify things or help people with their projects is always a big deal for me, because even though I'm not in the community management team anymore, I still feel, you know, super connected to the community. So at any point, you know, like I'll come drop in again. We can hang out again. I'm sorry, UE5 is under super wraps. There's some things that are under super wraps, but if there's any questions you have about like how to make stuff, I will always be here for you.
Oh, the last question. Will you see? Yes. Okay, I have another question, guys.
Last question, and then I do have to run. Yeah.
Okay, the last question. Will you get back in streamer in the Unreal Engine channel sooner or late?
So my thing here is that it's totally actually run by the CM team now, but Victor did invite me to come on, and then we had a great time, and then he's like, come back sometime. And so I'm thinking that right now we're under, big heavy COVID lockdown. I don't know if you've seen the news, but America not so hot on COVID. Like a lot of countries are not so hot right now, but yes, I'm hoping that after everything's done, I'm gonna poke Victor and just be like, hey, we should have some fun, and I have some new stuff to show off that I've been working on, and so I think I got some stuff to show. But yeah, I'll see about getting back on the stream and physically hang out with Victor. The last time we hung out, the last stream I did was the indie mocap with Victor, where we both sat down as Paragon characters, and we did that. And so I'd love to do another one for sure.
That's awesome. Okay, thank you for everything, Alex, and I let you the other saying goodbye to you. Really, thank you a lot. I hope to have you back soon.
Thank you guys also. Thank you all for asking me these questions and hanging out.
Thank you, Alex. It's been awesome. Thank you a lot.
Also, where is it that you can
Thank you very much for being with us.
All right, see y'all. I have to figure out how I actually wait. Is there there it is. Okay, so I'll see y'all later.
Happy D&D.
Play well.
Bye y'all.
Bye.
Okay,
Amazing.
Oak, join us in the channel. So we're gonna make other 3 hours of stream.
That was awesome.
It was awesome having Alex. Oak, you missed the street. That's bad. You will be punished, Oak. You will be punished. Oak is in the house. Welcome. It was an awesome stream. Welcome, Oak.
Oh, thanks. I just thought I'd pop in for a few minutes while I wait on my buddy to end up into the game he's playing currently. But yeah, I was busy today doing some other stuff. I'm probably gonna jump in and start playing some League. Haven't really played anything this weekend.
Yeah. Hey, I'm gonna be playing League too, just not League of Legends.
Then I will join you next section.
Why am the only one who's still always working and you all playing? What the hell is this stuff?
The end of the year.
You should ask yourself this, Reborn, actually.
What?
No, we're doing research.
Research. I keep working like a mad every day, and the only thing that I hear is I have to go to play that. I have to go to play that. I have to go to play that. And the one who's developing now. Is not
Have
fair.
you guys played Hades?
No.
It's amazing.
I can't do another game right now.
Shadow came in today, and the first thing he said, "I'm fucking crashed." You know why? Because I played all the weekend Rocket League.
Now it's Friday.
I said what?
We get to play all weekend again.
I said what? You are crashing because you was playing a game. What I should say, guys.
We should say, EXO, you need to be playing Rocket League with us. That way
Yeah, so after I will stop to code directly.
No, not all entirely. Just take a couple hours, learn the game. You gotta understand.
Yeah,
right?
A couple of hours. Shadow sent me a couple of hours,
7 weeks later.
It was. Oh man, I had really a bad week. I was so tired all the week because I played all the weekend Rocket League, that day and night. I said, what?
I will tell you the first week that I played. Oh, so I started on the weekend. I started a Friday night. I played all that weekend, and then I couldn't think of any. Even during work, I was like, "Oh, I just want to play Rocket League. Oh, I just want to play Rocket League" for like 4 or 5 days, and then it became the weekend again, and I was like, "Okay, I'm good." Yeah, every now and then I still get that. Hey, I just want to play a couple games, and it turns out to be like 40 or 50 of them, and it's like 11 hours later, but still.
I was even sleeping and still seeing flying cars.
Yeah, exactly.
It was an awesome stream, and I must say thanks, Alex, because he answered a lot of questions.
Yeah.
He was supposed to jump in at 4, and he jumped in immediately at 9. So it was with us 2 hours and a half. So it was just like a marathon instead of a stream, and so it was pretty freaking cool, honestly.
That's great.
Some good, solid advice from him. Really great stuff.
Yeah. It's really great. Like the last stream with Oak and this stream with Alex, and hopefully we're gonna have Alex's wife, which is working also for Epic in the accessibility side of the things, like at the at learn.unrealengine.com. So this will be great, like I was talking earlier today with Alex. I said, we want to have guys from Epic, because you guys are the ones then the media engine. You are the guys then made our dreams possible, and so that's literally the people then we want to talk with, and that's what it is, the kind of person and people and developers and passionate people we want to talk with to learn and get in touch with, and keep talking of our passions. And that was another great stream, honestly.
Yeah, but it's also very special that they can make the time, and they are really great and making the time for us, and that's also very special.
Totally agree.
It is.
And it's the gift that never stops giving, Epic. It's amazing the amount of things they just give us free of charge just to make games.
But that's why Epic is a special company, because because it's filled completely with people like Coke, like Alex, and all the others that are very great and friendly person. Then you can really talk like talking like one of your friends. Like you're not talking with a super triple or quadruple A CEO, then doesn't give a shit of you, right? This is it's really nice, having this kind of talks with people that really bring us the engine. To me, honestly. So, what are you gonna play?
Oh, I'm gonna play some League of Legends. That's I haven't really played much really any video games today, since I've taken the last couple days off, but I've had some other stuff to do, and so this is like the first chance I've actually get to sit down in front of my computer and play some games. So that's what I figured I would do. Now all the stream was on, I was like, oh yeah, that's right, because I've been so busy today. I was like, oh cool, I can catch the end of it because it goes till 6. And I was like, oh wait a minute, I think it ends around 5.
So you actually didn't have no one today. What time is that?
Oh no, I didn't.
What time is it?
What time is it for me?
I know. Yeah, we're close to 3 hours stream. I think we can.
Yeah, it's almost 12 or so.
It's almost 12. I don't have any kind of. Okay, it's almost 12. Well, I think we can wrap up it. I think we had a good view on what's. I mean, I think now I have a better idea of what's UE5, even if it didn't reveal some secret, but I have a better idea of what would be Unreal 5 and how really will change our way of doing the things.
Absolutely. And the funny thing is, everybody I hear is saying, no, I will stop. I will wait for UE5.
Yeah, a lot of people. It's true.
Really? I didn't know that.
So, I hear a lot of streamers that saying, I will wait for UE5 because then everything will change.
Well, I honestly think that UE5 will not make a developer a better developer. Will make it a faster developer, and without worries developer. Without being.
But that's a better. No? Yeah, but that's a better developer.
It is. On a certain extent, it is. Like with all also with Alex, of the drawback of the things. Then the market, the market will be maybe even more flooded than what it is right now, because all these engines are really becoming easier and easier to deal with, and so this will contribute to flow the market. But like he said, and I agree with that, at the end the games then worth will stand out, right?
My opinion is UE5 will not make you a better game developer. That's my opinion, and that's because the mechanics making the game. and the game design is making you the game.
Yeah, what
It helps you a lot doing the rest.
it gives you more freedom.
Yeah.
How you're gonna use this freedom is up to you. I mean, not being kind constrained into, a
Yeah.
certain amount of poly count, or baking lights and all this. It will gives you way more freedom, but it will not make you, generally speaking, a game developer, right? Because that is something that comes from your inside. The way then you want to make a game, then you want to tell something to people. Because I think that at the end of the things, designing a game is a way of talk from the developer to who's going to play the game. So if you have something deep to say, if you have something good to say, to communicate through your game, I think that will be a good game. If you are empty and you don't have something to communicate to people, that will not be a good game. That's my personal opinion about that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still afraid we're gonna install next year with Christmas. There will be the first game that will be about 300 gig.
Yeah. Yes. Even more. We're gonna see terabyte worth of games. It's not gonna be gigs anymore, just terabytes.
At the moment, Reborn compiled and shipped is 2 gigabytes, so we're still good.
Oh, nice! That's really impressive.
That's really impressive.
No, future games instead of cartridges or discs, it's just going to be a hard drive.
Right.
Yeah, they are gonna ship on SSD.
Brand new hard drive.
Exactly. You're just gonna get an NVMe 2 and that's it, right?
Yep.
Yeah, it's a bit exaggerated, but okay. It's also a lot depends from your what you are streaming, Saxanth.
What do you think I'm streaming?
Playing Rocket League? Oh my god!
Because you're live with your camera. I don't want to see something like okay.
Is Rocket League fully mobile? It's fully dynamic lighting, or they have some baked lights?
I'm pretty sure that it's baked lighting. They have different lighting scenarios, so they have like time of day, but it's like certain times, so like nighttime, daytime, midday, things like that. But there's no like the sun doesn't go across the sky, so I would assume that it's like partially baked.
What you're streaming? I was saying, why don't see your stream?
Yeah, why don't you stream it? Because you're streaming.
I'm plugging in my gamepad now, so starting up.
Are you gonna play together?
Oh yeah.
Okay, guys. We're going to wrap it up, and as always, my biggest thanks to Shadow, to Nadav, Saxanth, of course to Alex, that was our guest. To Oak, then gets back late, will be punished heavily for Monday. I'm gonna make a huge list of questions and bugs. Then he has to solve in one single day for Oak for Monday as punishment. And what I can say was another great and fun stream, honestly. And this format we'll keep it up in time, and we'll see how it will evolve. From all the mechanics of the studio are done, everything is done, parser is done. So from tomorrow, I'm going to work back on Reborn like normal day schedule, and on another side, a small side project that will be super huge at the end, like always. But that's still top secret. And I say thanks to everyone who watched the stream, to the guys that will watch in the tube. They couldn't be here. Please spread the voice. We're doing all this for the community, and hope then you really enjoy this format and what will come next. So I let Shadow, Oak, Nadav, and Saxon talking, and after I'm gonna wrap it up.
Yep.
I just want to say, sorry.
Go for it.
I just want to say thank you, Reborn, again for a great stream. It was amazing. We have an amazing guest, and can't wait for next week. Thanks for setting this up. It's really beautiful.
Thanks. Oak, up to you.
Oh, I think I like what you've done with the studio. I think it's a great idea. Like they said, it's a fun format. I think that people are really going to enjoy it. I've enjoyed the first stream that I participated in, and the what I got to see of this one. I'm sure I'm going to watch it on YouTube later.
Yeah,
I think it's
Monday. I will interrogate you on all the stream.
I'm gonna quiz me.
Yeah,
like in
It's
school.
gonna be a test.
It's gonna be a test. Shadow.
Yeah, it was completely amazing. Alex being here, and what you've done with the show. I cannot wait for the next week.
Yeah, but don't play too much Rocket
It's already locked in.
Bye, thanks to opening. Thanks a lot, and thanks for bringing us Alex, because if we could have Alex today, that's because Oak. So we'll still have to say thanks to Oak because it made that possible, and that is really awesome. Who's typing?
And
Saxanth, stop to play and say something. I had to wrap up the video.
I want to say thank you guys. It's been an awesome. Another great stream.
You
just
said
a lot of fun
scripted.
hanging out with you. Yeah,
It's not scripted at all. It's all improvised.
It's a lot of fun. I think a lot of what we're doing here is we're all indie, right? We're all trying to learn together, and I think that it's great that we're able to get some of these awesome special guests in here to kind of lead us a little bit further and show us that we're kind of on the right path, right?
Mhm.
So this is awesome. I love it. Thank you.
Okay, thanks everyone, guys. I'm going to wrap it up and see you the next Friday with hopefully some new special guests. I'm still talking of it, but I'm preparing something cool. And for the rest, if I'll be up tomorrow, I'll be in stream like every day, guys. Thanks for everything, and switching. Well, I'm not switching on the. Oh wait, no, this is Red, which is sleeping. Okay, this is my cat, guys. She's sleeping.
Reborn, you gonna install it now or not?
No. Now I'm completely crashed, guys. I worked like a mad this week, like a super mad. So I really need to kind of wrap it up and crash at least for half a day on the pillow, guys. Because I know if I start to play now Rocket League, you'll keep me all the night long, and I'm going to crash completely. So switching the image, guys. Wait, that's okay. Red is not on. So thanks everyone, guys. See you the next Friday, and peace to everyone.
Ciao.
Ciao.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.